Chapter 1180. Ah! A demon with the horns of a goat and burning with dark red ashes hugged his arms and screamed. He held the eye of Agamotto in his hand. The bronze pendant turned dark red in the demon's hand, burning his body and soul. Let go of it, John. That won't do. If you let go of it, it will instantly return to its owner's hand. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that its owner doesn't know any magic at all, he would only need to chant an incantation to deprive you of your soul as fuel and send that thing back to his own hand. According to the contract, you have to help me keep it safe. Your soul stinks. Even the most despicable demon in hell is more sincere than you, and even the most stinky maggot is cleaner than your soul. You scoundrel who would even deceive a demon. The demon screamed. Constantine put his leg on the table and lit another cigarette. Thank you for your compliment, but you're just a goat infested with maggots, with an anus on your face. It took me so much effort to trick this treasure, and I'm letting you keep it safe. Isn't that in line with the contract? According to the contract, you can obtain all my wealth, including my soul. Wait a minute, but when the contract is fulfilled, I'll go to hell. How certain are you that I'll go to hell? If you want to fulfill the contract, you'll have to snatch my soul from the hands of a dozen demons. There are many demon kings in hell among them. Besides, I think I'll go to heaven. Heaven? The demon laughed and even choked. It's impossible. Even Satan can go to heaven. You can't. We'd rather let you live forever than let you go to heaven. You owe us too much. When you go to hell, we'll consider ourselves kind if we can turn you into ashes. Look, to help you ignore the pain of your soul burning, I even talk to you to distract you. Constantine sighed. You're in charge of holding this thing. I'll go and see if there's a way to dispel the protection spell. Just as he was about to set off to find his friends, the door to his magic room was kicked open. Constantine turned around in shock. Not many people could find his secret chamber. Those who could find it were either very powerful magi or his trusted friends. It would be fine if it was a friend, but if it was one of the strongest magi, he would have to start thinking about what he was going to say next. Zatanna! Constantine exclaimed. It was a friend. You're hiding like a bug again. Zatanna spoke rudely. Croydon's pointer should still be with you. Lend it to me for a while. Croydon's pointer, a famous magical artifact in the world of magic, or rather, one of the cheats. That item had once attracted the attention of a famous mage association in the world of magic, the Church of Cold Flames. Constantine had been tossed around quite a bit during that fight. It was a legendary magical tool that was said to have been created by a dark mage called Angus Croydon. He was a famous sadist and had a penchant for cannibalism. This pointer could help him find any source of magic to satisfy his greedy desires, and he would offer his blood to it. This item was famous and very useful. With it, it could help you find anything, as long as it was related to magic. You're mistaken. That thing isn't here. Constantine clutched his stomach, his face covered in cold sweat as he slid down from the chair. Zatanna retracted her fist. Don't tell me it's missing. If a bastard like you doesn't find this thing immediately, I believe that the world will be at peace. It's in my shirt pocket. Constantine endured the cold sweat as he said. In the cigarette box, Zatanna used 2 fingers to reach into Constantine's shirt pocket, then nimbly fished out the dial inside. It was a small compass made up of 3 parts, a pointer and a lens. It was similar to the one in Captain Jack Sparrow's hand. What are you looking for? Constantine complained. You're becoming less and less gentle towards me. Zatanna, yes, ever since I discovered that you're scum. Zatanna said bluntly. Some time ago, a very powerful energy fluctuation came from Metropolis. It was the power of an incredible source of magic. Don't tell me you don't know about it. Many mages ran over to investigate, and I have a good relationship with the Righteous Alliance, so I know more. We found the remnants of the power of time in Metropolis, and we found the projection of time left behind. The Ghost and Mr. E worked together to restore the scene. The time in Metropolis had been reversed. It wasn't a small matter like 1 or 2 people going back in time, but a powerful force that reversed the time of an entire city. Mr. E believes that the source of magic can restore everything. The Righteous Alliance. All right, Batman still doesn't trust me, but I learned something from Barry. A mage from another world used a powerful artifact to reverse time and destroy a monster created by the second prophet. At the same time, he reversed the damage it had caused to Metropolis. This is a miracle in magic. No one can pay such a high price. I divined it can reunite me with my father again, and perhaps even reverse the tragedy. When Constantine heard this, he knew that he could no longer stop Zatanna's ambition to find the artifact. However, he vaguely felt that something was wrong. He probed, "Does that mage from another world have any objections? You want to snatch his things?" "I just want to borrow it," Zatanna said guiltily. "And I will remind him that there are people preparing to plot against him. The Fallen Witch, the Church of Cold Flames, and even the people of Shadow Pact want to interfere. There's also the Pentagram, the people of the Church, and heaven and hell. There are rumors that the person who obtains this artifact will become the fourth prophet." "Prophet?" Constantine fell silent. The smoke in front of him blurred his expression. "Those monsters. You should know how terrifying and powerful the prophet is. We are not the uniformed people of the Righteous Alliance who know nothing about the mysterious world." "What's the name of that mage from another world?" Constantine asked. "Maybe we can make friends with him." "He's called the Supreme Mage." Zatanna stared at the dial and prepared to cast a spell while casually replying to Constantine. Cold sweat immediately dripped down Constantine's forehead. The needle on the compass in Zatanna's hand began to turn slowly after casting the spell. Then, it pointed to a position behind Constantine. The magic showed that the thing was there. Zatanna calmly raised her head. "What a good act. John." "So fast." Chapter 1181. The little spider walked through London. The boy walked alone on the streets of London. This was simply saying to the thugs with knives everywhere in the streets, "I am easy to bully." But the little spider was not easy to bully. The biggest hobby of the good neighbors in New York City was to tie up thugs with spider silk. Before Peter had acquired superpowers, he was a stupid young man in Queens. What he lacked the most in his life was this kind of third-rate thug. In the early days of acquiring superpowers, the little spider always roamed the streets and alleys, stopping some violent incidents such as knife robberies and gun robberies at convenience stores. Compared to a hero like Stark, the little spider lacked the face-to-face with evil big entrepreneurs, new or old capitalists, evil organizations such as Hydra, and high-class criminals such as the agents of various countries. Most of the time, before he joined the Holy Shield and the Avengers, he dealt with some down-and-out scientists, gangsters, criminals, and violent organizations. In general, the reality of the people at the bottom was very closely integrated and lacked the grandeur of a big scene. London is still okay. When the little spider finished tying up the sixth thug who tried to rob him with a knife, he was not surprised to find the prophet leaning against the entrance of the alley, leaning against the wall with her head tilted. Her burgundy hair blocked half of her face. She said, "Although Great Britain has colonized the world for 500 years, but in its heyday, they never let the low-quality people of the colonies enter London. So you don't see Indian turban servants here, Arabs and black people, and gypsies who live in motor homes and talk like they have a keyboard in their mouths. There are only Indian doctors and university professors, rich Arabs. If we were in France, say, Paris, these people would be wandering the streets from the Champs-Élysées to the Bastille, creating the smell of Paris at the same time, the stench of human urine. The French perfume back then was to cover up these things, and it's the same today. I have to say, although London now has a mayor of the Church of Truth, the old British colonists have not lost their style after all. At least they know to refuse immigrants. You should remind me what kind of scum the person I'm going to meet today is." The little spider complained. "I've reminded you. You must choose him. I've said that I know many master magicians who are far better than him." The prophet came before the terrified London local gangster who was trapped on the wall by the spider's silk and looked at him seriously. "He is really lucky. Originally, he would have been sent to the prison for felons in 3 years because he caused a serious injury during a robbery. Now, it seems that it won't happen." The little spider said happily, "Is that so? That's why I'm doing this." He raised his left hand, which was wearing a crimson glove. The mechanical glove looked very cool. At least that's what the hooligans thought. They kept trying to get their hands on it, and now it was hanging on the walls and roofs. On the other hand, the prophet pulled the topic back. I think you need to be separated from that thing for a while. When it is on you, it makes your fate look blurry. You can only see it more clearly when it is away from me. Now it seems the destruction of the world you caused has nothing to do with that thing. The prophet looked at the little spider seriously. Moreover, that thing is now a problem. The prophet tilted his head. You used it to cause too much trouble in the metropolis and attracted a lot of people's attention. Now, it is a temptation that attracts people's attention. To be honest, those who study magic, none of them have not messed up their own lives, but they are more superstitious about cheating in magic. They think the prophet is very powerful. In fact, they have caused too much trouble themselves. You only need to borrow a little bit of the prize caused by their abuse of magic. With a clever lever, you can lift up their lives and smash them into pieces. We can easily control their desires, because no one who studies magic is wise enough to be pure of heart and few desires. This kind of person will not study magic at all. Magic is desire and ambition. These people are so pitiful. They ruin their lives, hurt their loved ones, and at the same time, they're superstitious about cheating. Do you know what this means? The prophet asked. They may have a lot of things they regret. The little spider seemed to understand. More than a little. They have countless mistakes that they won't make up for, things that make their hearts, livers, spleens, and lungs ache the moment they think about it. Now that they know there's a cheat called medicine for regret, do you think they'll go crazy? The prophet smiled maliciously. Some people think they have cheated a treasure, but in fact, it is a bomb. Madame Xanadu was the world's strongest divination witch. The blood of the ancient people gave her the ability to predict the future. In a magic world, it was rumored that Madame Xanadu was once one of the candidates for the prophet. Some people said that except for her identity as a prophet, her prophetic ability was not inferior to the prophet, but only Madame Xanadu herself knew that prophets were monsters. The first prophet was omniscient and omnipotent. The second prophet chose for the world, and the third prophet loaded the file and restarted. These three monsters were the real peak of the mysterious world. They guarded an ultimate secret, the secret about the world's destruction. An organization was built around the three of them, and the World Security Council was their pawn. Why did Madame Xanadu know so clearly? Of course, it was because she was also one of them. She was a member of the World Security Council, although she did not remember anything after leaving the headquarters. You have to think clearly, Muen. This is not something you can touch. Madame Xanadu warned the blonde in front of her. That thing is very dangerous, more dangerous than you can imagine. Let her come out and talk to you. Muen's attitude was very firm, which Muen's right hand that was placed on the table suddenly stretched out a slender and strange palm with black nails. Their fingers intertwined, and then Muen gently flipped her palm. Her whole appearance changed. She became a black-haired, green-eyed witch, the same as Madame Xanadu in front of her. Help me. You owe me. The witch tilted her head and said in a half-pleading, half-threatening manner. Madame Xanadu sighed. She was not going to tell the witch, but when she was divining just now, she seemed to find that things had changed. That thing fell into the hands of a person who was completely unexpected by Madame Xanadu. This seemed to be specially used to take the blame, so Madame Xanadu changed her mind. Since the prophet had decided that this person would take the blame, then what are you still hesitating for? Why aren't you pushing the blame away? The thing you want is now in Constantine's hands. Madame Xanadu slowly took out the dried corpse of a red-breasted robin from beside her that had stopped on a withered rose branch. She lowered her head and kissed the head of the red-breasted robin. The red-breasted robin came alive in a breath and flew up and down the back of Madame Xanadu's hand. Madame Xanadu handed the red-breasted robin to the witch and let it fly up to the witch's shoulder. Chapter 1182. I have a bad feeling about this. Constantine paced back and forth in the secret magic room and said uneasily, I think I've been tricked. Hey, don't make yourself sound like an innocent victim. That child didn't give this to you voluntarily. Zatanna was only wearing a sports singlet as she floated in the air with her legs crossed. A glowing crystal ball hovered in front of her. Her back was facing Constantine, and she did not even turn her head as she sneered. I did trick him into giving me the item, but he was definitely lured here on purpose. That person knew that I couldn't resist the temptation. He used my weakness. What weakness did he use? Zatanna said disdainfully. Is he despicable and shameless? Crystal water, reveal yourself. The magic incantation that Zatanna was used to was a type of reverse magic. In short, it was to reverse the pronunciation of words. Many people thought that this was very evil. Some devout Christians still believed that the blasphemous incantation of the devil was to reverse the words of the Bible, and that the priest could exorcise the devil by reciting it correctly. God Qin scoffed at this strange belief of believers. When Qinong was a grand arcanist, he had also studied arcane theory, the science of the magic world. He summarized and understood the rules. Arcane magic was just an objective understanding of the magic world. He always felt that this kind of magic that used someone's classics in reverse or chaotic and without any rules was actually a kind of divine art. It was just like the act of inputting instructions into a computer. The rules of the magic world were like a person inputting Chinese characters into a computer and then realizing all kinds of magical functions, thinking that Chinese characters had magic power. In the end, it was still the rules of the world itself that worked. The so-called reverse words, the so-called prayers, the so-called symbols of magic were all the result of someone mastering the fundamental rules of the world, mastering arcane magic and science. Then, they used these rules, compiled them into programs, and provided them to those idiots to use. Why did Qinong believe in this so firmly? The second prophet looked at the superbrain that was said to have been created by the prophet and could replace them. He looked at the runes that kept flashing across it. Registration ID Zatanna has requested access again. Let me see what request she has made this time. Oh, so it's foresight. Zero prophet. Give her 80% of the future she wants to know. Every day, the Zeroth prophet of the three prophets system, a brain that gathered the abilities of the three prophets, handled the requests of thousands of sorcerers through the program that the three prophets created to manage the world. Under normal circumstances, they would approve the requests, and the Zeroth prophet would arrange for the sorcerers to pay the price. This was their destiny. The three prophets system would arrange all the mages clearly. Far away in London, the third prophet intercepted part of the request, added something to the reply Zatanna had received, and resumed sending. Zatanna only felt that today's prophecy was slightly delayed before she saw the scene of the future appear on the crystal ball. Blurry and unclear scenes were displayed in front of her. She saw a spider weaving a web in the darkness, saw the web enveloping the entire world, and saw all the heroes struggling in the web. But the spider itself was also trapped in the web. She saw a war that tore apart the entire world. She saw three indistinct shadows standing under the endless light. Zatanna woke up with a start. Constantine took out a cigarette and held it in his hand without lighting it. He looked at Zatanna, who had woken up from cogitation with a horrified expression, and said, "It looks like you're doing a deep divination. Is this matter that troublesome?" Zatanna put on her clothes and said fiercely, "It's much more troublesome than you think. I saw a war that could tear the entire world apart, and there are three people standing on it. I think they're prophets. For that thing of yours, blood will flow like a river. I want to advise you to throw that thing away now." "Impossible." Constantine lit his cigarette. "That thing is like a rope. If you hold on the shore, you will be pulled into a whirlpool, and if you throw it away in the whirlpool, it will be equivalent to giving up the last life-saving straw." "Little Na, I'm familiar with this situation. Now that we're deep in it, it's our biggest bargaining chip. After the gamble begins, we can't give up on any bargaining chip, even if it's a high-interest loan from the devil." Constantine put on the yellow windbreaker and turned to Zatanna. "Now, we have to use this bargaining chip to strengthen our strength. We need strength now, even if we have to make a deal with the devil. At the very least, we have to break the protective spell on that divine artifact. Zatanna had not given up on the idea of reversing time and finding her father. She bit her lip and said, "The mage who cast the protective spell is too powerful. Perhaps only the specter can break that spell." The specter was the most powerful, vengeful spirit created by God. Zatanna did not know why it came to the human world. It was said that a few of its companions had fallen. Thus, the specter descended to represent God to punish them. There's no need. Constantine's train of thought was different from ordinary people. Most of the protective spell's power is still used to bind the magic source. It's not easy for us to pry it open, but if we change our train of thought, it won't be difficult to smash it open. Break the protective spell and release the magic source? Zatanna was shocked. Are you crazy? We all know how powerful and troublesome that magic source is. It's a miracle to be able to bind it and use it stably. To a mage, the value of the protective spell is even higher than the magic source. You actually want to break it. The released magic source will go berserk and will no longer be able to restore the function of the divine artifact. If we need it as a weapon, then a powerful magic source that cannot be controlled is better than a useless piece of trash. Constantine said solemnly. Of course, it's not to that extent yet. Although Constantine said this, he looked at the eye of Agamotto as if he was looking at an incomparably hard walnut. He was thinking about where to break it open. Zatanna took the divine artifact that the two of them had worked together to seal with one hand. She glared at him angrily and said, "Don't even think about doing that. I'd rather hand over a treasure like that. I'll take care of it first." "Who are you going to trick now?" Zatanna said sarcastically. "Let me think. Constantine has 3 treasures: lies, magic, and friendship. You seem to have one less friend now. Let me count. You don't seem to have anyone to trick anymore." Constantine's face twitched. It was clear that Zatanna had poked at his wound again. It had to be said that although Constantine put in a lot of effort to trick his friends, he treated every single one of his friends sincerely. When necessary, he would even die for them. However, he knew how to sacrifice too well, whether it was himself or his friends. Every time he lost a friend, he would feel really sad and guilty. It was precisely because of this that he was able to make a few sincere friends, even though he was notorious for tricking his friends. However, there really weren't many left. The rate at which his friends were producing and consuming magic source was not proportional. There really wasn't enough left. This time, we're going to meet the so-called most despicable, bloodthirsty, and terrifying person in all of Manhattan. However, he's actually just a third-rate voodoo warlock leading a group of brutal street thugs. He's a smart person. He should have already sensed something. I'll see if I can get something good out of his hands. This is the price I have to pay for warning him that trouble is coming. Every time trouble comes knocking on his door, I'll take the initiative to lead him away. I'm really a good person. To him, I'm really a good person." Zatanna understood. "Daddy Midnight, I remember he's still looking for you. You seem to have stolen something from him again." Constantine touched his pocket. "Did you bring the reversal charm? Give me one first. It's time to pay some price." The third prophet watched the two of them embark on their journey. Her nose twitched fiercely. Her delicate nose flapped, giving her a vicious feeling. She curled her lips in disdain. "Oh, sour smell." Then, she smashed Constantine's price onto his sexual orientation. Chapter 1183. Constantine stood in front of an apartment building. This was where Old Midnight ran his gang. As soon as Constantine got out of the taxi, he saw a few Midnight Sons. They were the gangsters led by their father. They stood guard downstairs and hid in a corner to monitor the crowd. When they saw Constantine, they were so shocked that they dropped the cigarette in their mouths. One of them quickly disappeared and went upstairs to report to their father. Constantine calmly observed the disappearing gangster from the corner of his eyes. He calmly asked Zatanna, who was in the car, "Aren't you going up?" "I'm not going up. I'll wait for you here." Zatanna didn't like the African voodoo warlock. "I've already put the reversal charm in your pocket. I hope he can calm down a little." "What did you steal from him this time?" Zatanna asked. "It's so embarrassing to stand with you." "Don't say that. Little Zach, it's just a skull detector," Constantine said calmly. I thought I cleared up the misunderstanding with him. That day, there was a huge energy fluctuation in the capital. I was a little curious, so I discussed borrowing that thing from old Dad. I didn't see him when I went there, so I didn't tell him. But you didn't expect that thing to come to your door, right? Zatanna sneered. Go up. Accept the punishment you deserve. Constantine smiled mischievously. Little Zach, we're best at avoiding punishment and paying the price. This is magic. At that moment, Constantine saw from the corner of his eye a half-naked black man walking down with a group of people. He wore a large gold chain. Daddy Midnight was a voodoo warlock from Haiti, and he had many capable black men under him. Constantine walked towards him with a smile on his face and said, Hey, my friend, it's been a long time. Is old Dad well? The black man went up and punched Constantine, knocking him to the ground. You stole old Dad's thing again. How dare you come again? Constantine fell to the ground and cried out in pain. Constantine raised his head. Aren't I here now? I'm showing my sincerity, and I'm also helping my dad solve a problem. You should know what's going to happen in the capital that day. Everyone knows about the magic wave from the skulls. Someone will definitely come looking for it. Ugh. Constantine was hit again by Blackie's crowbar. Oh well. Sable only stopped when Constantine collapsed to the ground. Dad wants to see you. Think about how you're going to explain yourself. It had turned into a hideous and terrifying resurrected corpse. Daddy Midnight stood to the side with his arms crossed and a cigar in his mouth. He looked at Constantine, who was wearing a voodoo sect robe, and sneered. I'm curious, what are you looking for? Constantine, you stole something from me, and you're going to look for the magical artifact that appeared in the capital? This isn't your style. Normally, you would restrain your greed. You know the price of magic. Although I hate to say it, Constantine, you're a scum, but you're also a scum with a standpoint. You maintain the balance of magic. Daddy Midnight said, That's why I'm willing to listen to your story after seeing a pile of rotten flesh like you. Of course, don't play tricks on me. Daddy Midnight reached out and took out a strange charm from Constantine's shirt pocket. Reverse charm. Return the damage you've suffered to the last person who hurt you today. Daddy Midnight pressed Constantine against the half-dead, resurrected corpse's face, giving him intimate contact with it. Jacques was so disgusted by the stench of the rotten corpse that he wanted to vomit. When the corpse's teeth bit into him, he screamed, If you do this, Xiao Zhao won't kiss me for half a year. Daddy Midnight flipped the charm, and it suddenly burst into flames, transferring all the damage Constantine had suffered to the resurrected corpse. Father Midnight loosened his grip on Constantine's neck, allowing him to stand up calmly. Jacques tidied up his coat and shirt, spitting out a mouthful of rancid saliva in disgust. He snapped his fingers, and the space around him fell into darkness. Only Jacques and Midnight were in the dark. I received an order from that lord, Jacques said. Don't try to be mysterious. John, I'm not a very patient person, Daddy Midnight said. Twisted blue flames suddenly appeared around Constantine, and a blurry figure appeared in the middle of the flames. He looked at Constantine and said, I need you to do something for me, John. Daddy Midnight was shocked. A prophet. The first prophet. Constantine turned sideways to face the projection that had been preserved by magic. His silhouette had a cigarette in its mouth, which was also a medium for casting spells. In fact, the history of the use of tobacco in occultism was almost the same as the history of tobacco being used by humans. The Native American shamans loved to smoke tobacco to cast spells, using it as a medium for casting spells. A certain wizard, a white-robed wizard who read himself as a berserker, also loved tobacco. The projection was surrounded by smoke. Obviously, Jacques had used tobacco as a medium to make it appear. The distorted projection of the first prophet said, In the future, a divine artifact will appear in the metropolis. A blurry figure glowing with green light appeared in the smoke. Constantine said slowly, It's like kryptonite, right? It's very dangerous. It's a door that connects to another world. It can create the fourth prophet. It's a key sent by someone. Help me find it, Constantine. It's a beacon for a powerful wizard to return home. But we can't let him return, because he'll destroy this world. There are three outsiders who came to our world. Reed, the spider, and strange blurry figures appeared in the projection. Protect him. The first prophet looked at Reed's projection with a complicated expression. Then he said to the spider's projection, and the divine artifact is with him. He can destroy the world, but this world should have been destroyed long ago. Don't worry about it. He's the one we've chosen to destroy this world. And him. The first prophet pointed at Strange. He's a wizard who's been exiled from time. You must bring him back at the right time. If the time isn't right, the world's destruction will go out of control. Constantine's figure appeared in the projection for the first time. He asked the first prophet, "Isn't it the committee's responsibility to protect this world?" "Why me?" "Because our opinions have diverged. The three prophets have split. We all see that the world is at a critical juncture, standing at the crossroads leading to different futures, but our opinions have diverged greatly. Everyone wants to save this world, but it can't be saved anymore. We must make a choice, a different choice. So we each do what we want. The committee will only act when the three prophets agree. This is the iron rule I've set. The committee is doing their best to save me, but I must ensure that there's a chance to start over. So we can only let the second and third prophets do what they want. And when it comes to making a choice for the world, no one can compare to the second prophet." Constantine said solemnly, "That's really an ability that makes people jealous." "We don't agree, so I need you to get the divine artifact. That way, I might be able to stop him from making a choice for the world at the critical moment. But he can make it so that I can't even touch the divine artifact," Constantine said. "No, he will." The first prophet smiled. "As long as you're unlucky, he'll deliver it to you. This is the rule of the game between us." The illusion disappeared. Father Midnight was silent. Chapter 1184. Looking down at the blue planet in space, Chunong stood by a window in the committee's headquarters that overlooked Earth. After looking at Earth for a while, he turned around and asked the moon to move the headquarters back to the ground. "The lock and key have been separated," Chunong said to a tall figure kneeling in the shadows. "Summon the evil alliance. I have something for them to do." "Yes," the man and woman in the darkness said respectfully. In the metropolis, Constantine walked out of Daddy Midnight's territory and looked up at the night sky. It was already past dusk, and the bright moon hung high in the sky. There were mysterious patterns on the surface of the moon. Today's moon was especially big, and it was the second full moon of the month. The cold moonlight in the night sky was tinged with blue, signifying that the phenomenon of the moon's phase that occurred once every 3 years. The blue moon had arrived without warning. Constantine stared at the blue moon, recalling what a blue moon meant in magical astrology. A red moon meant that evil was active. On that day, dark species like werewolves and vampires who worshipped the moon would welcome an abundance of magic. It was also the day of some of their important customs. The blue moon signified the activity of magic. On this day, all the magic sources in the world would be abnormally active. Many magic curses could be cast using the power of the blue moon. Mages could also take advantage of this rare phenomenon and use some magic rituals to increase their magic power, using magic to absorb mana from the blue moon. However, the blue moon's arrival was usually foreshadowed. Any mage who knew a bit of magic could predict it in advance. It was an important part of astrology. Even the astronomical institutions on Earth could calculate the time of the blue moon's appearance after the 16th century. However, today, just like the few exceptions in history, the blue moon appeared without any warning. Constantine decided to go back and check his collection of magic tomes to see what it meant. In London, the madam of the capital also stared at the bright moon. As someone from an ancient race, she knew what it meant. Her green eyes flashed with a hint of worry. She whispered, "Summon the ancient evil again? Second prophet, what are you trying to do?" The spirit soared into the air. His entire body was wrapped in a green cloak, and the extreme pain caused his face to contort. He could not help but scream into the sky. Green lightning and sparks shot out from his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, burning his soul. The nature of the spirit of vengeance caused him great pain, and his power was torturing him. Specters were the vengeful spirits of the supreme God. They possessed almost omnipotent divine powers. It used to be the devil Astur, one of the 7 archdevils ordered by the Messiah to destroy the Tower of Babel. It was also one of the most powerful spirits of vengeance. It was the archangel of the Messiah's angel legion. After its power was taken away by Mephitos, it walked the human world and was ordered to judge all evil. He and Johnny Blaze's spirit of vengeance, Zarathanos, were one of the 7 great devils of hell. However, the spirit did not understand Wyatt, as the wrath of God, as the angel of the spirit of vengeance, had to take orders from a human. Therefore, it often resisted, but was tortured by the nature of its own power. The spirit finally could not bear the extreme pain. It turned into a green lightning and rushed into the sky, heading for the moon. It turned into a lightning bolt and galloped in space, passing the outer space of the earth at the speed of light, and landed on the back of the moon in a secret temple. In the main hall of the temple, the spirit turned into a human. It was still wrapped in a green cloak, and its expression was like a mask. The spirit slowly stood up. It did not even look at the figures beside it. It just stared at the figure on the altar of the temple, Chanong. There were a total of 6 people standing side by side with him. The 7 of them were the ancient evil force controlled by Chanong, the evil alliance. Among them, there was no lack of acquaintances of the little spider. Chun-Ong calmly looked at these random minions and slowly said, "My plan has reached a critical point, so each of you has a mission. Now, the first mission for you is to start a war between good and evil. Destroy the alliance of justice and order. Do not let them have the time to stop my plan." Plan? The spirit's eyes flickered. What plan? Chun-Ong reached out and pointed, and the spirit's body burned with green flames again. The flames of the spirit of vengeance burned his soul, and the spirit's screams echoed through the hall. He trembled all over, and green flames spewed out of his 7 orifices. Lightning burst out of his eyes. The spirit of vengeance turned into flames and lightning, surrounding him and torturing him. The other 6 people in the shadows avoided the lightning that shot out of his body and stood to the side, watching coldly. Chun-Ong slowly said, "This is not something you can ask, spirit. I know you always wanted to find me, and you are very confused about why I can order you. You think I have stolen the authority of God. You think you are God's subordinate. You think you are different from the other 6 great devils because you have confessed to God. You think you are loyal to Christ. But God doesn't care about confession, and the Messiah is not the Christ you think. You think that God ordered you to destroy the world because humans tried to blaspheme the authority of God. You think that the Messiah ordered you 7 spirits of vengeance to destroy the Tower of Babel and build hell to judge humans. So you think that judging evil is your mission. You think I'm a prophet. You think I'm Aaron, the prophet recorded in the book of Exodus, Abel, Gospel of Luke, Abraham, Genesis, Agab, Acts, Anna, Gospel of Luke, Azariah, 2 Chronicles, Barnabas, Acts, Deborah, Judges, Elijah, 1 Kings, Enoch, Jude, Ezekiel, Isaiah, Moses, Deuteronomy, Paul, Acts, and my matey, Mecca. But I am above all Astur." Chun-Ong did not continue. He turned around with his back facing the 7 people and ordered, "Go. Each of you choose an opponent. Do not disappoint me." Chun-Ang's tone was light, but more than one person in the dark was shivering. They bowed to Chun-Ong and left to find their own opponents. After a long time, a voice suddenly appeared. "Lord Prophet, is the plan really at a crucial stage?" Someone snuck back and asked Chun-Ong. Chun-Ong smiled faintly. "My plan has already succeeded. It was completed before the formation of the committee. To stop it, it was only possible during the last destruction of the world, but they failed. So, there is no more chance. You should have guessed it already. Fu Manzhou." At the bottom of the steps, Fu Manzhou, who once appeared in Gotham City and called himself the Khan, bowed respectfully to Chun-Ong. "Yes, Lord Prophet, I have guessed some secrets. The trend has been set, and Peter Parker and the Eye of Agamotto are just the straw that broke the camel's back. Do you just ignore them, whether they will be used by those people?" You're still playing your little tricks. Chen Ang's face was expressionless. Fu Manzhou, during the last destruction of the world, you were lucky to escape by relying on me. You must be wondering why the Holy Shield is on my side, why Stark wants to kill Rogers, why the Civil War of Heroes, why the One-Eyed Nick recreated the World Security Council for me, why during the apocalypse, the heroes turned against each other, why after my identity was revealed, most of the heroes still chose to stand on my side, why Ms. Marvel, who was regarded as the last trump card by Nick Fury, did not play any role. Fu Manzhou, knowing too much can easily lead to death. Chen Ong said lightly, the members of the committee have disappeared one by one. Don't you understand? You can live until this universe. Peter can live, and Strange can stay safely outside of time. Isn't it all because of limited knowledge? Don't reveal the secret, or I will have to make you disappear with the secret, Chen Ong said coldly. Chapter 1185. On the dark side of the moon, in a vast underground base, or maybe the base itself was the moon, but it was almost hollowed out and transformed into a powerful weapon. When necessary, it could use the First Prophet's power to cover the entire Earth and change the timeline. This was the moon base, the headquarters of the World Security Council. Batman entered the most secure place in the base, the Ultimate Archive. The Archive's keeper, a powerful artificial intelligence, Zero Prophet, had been temporarily paralyzed. Batman used the virus given by the Third Prophet, and when Batman returned to the Justice League, he found that there was an extra piece of information in the silk bag that the Prophet had given him about the Joker. It was about the location of the World Security Council headquarters and a mysterious map. Batman could not ask anyone for help. The Prophet had told him the brocade pouch that only one person could sneak into the World Security Council headquarters and obtain the opportunity to access the Ultimate File. Only then could he take the opportunity to infect Zero Prophet with a virus and temporarily paralyze the Archive's defense. Zero Prophet was the Archive's secret keeper. Only the three prophets who created Zero Prophet could find the logical flaw in Zero Prophet and create a virus that could temporarily paralyze it. The Third Prophet asked Batman to find the Zero File, the deepest secret of the Three Prophet system, including something that every member of the Security Council would automatically forget when they left the headquarters. The secret of the world's last destruction was inside. Batman had no resistance to secrets. He did as the Third Prophet said and sneaked into the Ultimate Archive. Batman opened the sealed Minority Report and read it in the dark with the cold light on his wrist. The Third Prophet, who was beside the little spider, suddenly opened his eyes and smiled. Chen Ong, who was sitting in the headquarters, also smiled. He whispered a warning signal to the Evil League. Batman has sneaked into the Ultimate Archive and read the Minority Report. In the deepest part of the World Security Council headquarters, the First Prophet, who maintained his existence with the entire moon base's information weapons, opened his eyes. His gaze was calm. As if he had expected it, the First Prophet sighed. Perhaps the truth should have been revealed earlier. Second Prophet, what are you trying to do? Minority Report, Darkside Minority Report, Triad Demon Minority Report, Brainiac Minority Report, Watcher, Anti-Watcher Minority Report, Eclipse, Mephitos, Minority Report, Nine Lanterns Minority Report, Barbados, The Dark Dragon, Minority Report, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, Minority Report, Strange, Doctor Strange. Batman skimmed through the Minority Reports and saw words that were filled with blood and cruelty. Obliterate, seal, execute, sleep, forget, fix. At the top of the report, a line of cold words said, "We protect this world. We maintain order. We keep secrets. Create, maintain, shelter." This. Looking at everything recorded in the Minority Report, Batman shuddered. The truth could turn the world upside down. After reading all the Minority Report in a hurry, he put the report in the safest place in his arms, in a safety device on his lower abdomen of the Batsuit. Batman hurriedly escaped from the Ultimate Archive. He wanted to reveal these secrets to the public. However, as soon as he left the archive, he saw a tall figure blocking his way. The moon base was a huge steel base. There were alloy walls everywhere, just like the interior of a huge spaceship. The ultimate archive was a huge pyramid-shaped building made of an unknown golden metal. Batman had tested it and found it to be almost indestructible. He came out from the exit at the top of the pyramid and prepared to leave along the steps of the pyramid. However, there was already someone waiting in the middle of the pyramid. Only the 3 prophets and a few committee members had the authority to enter the entire area where the ultimate archive was located, so there were very few people here. There was no need to turn on the lights. The place was shrouded in darkness, and only a few lights leaked out from the running equipment, reflecting off the metal surface of the pyramid. One of the lights hit the figure in the face. It was Fu Manzhou. "I've been waiting for you here for a long time," Fu Manzhou said. "It just so happens that I'm the person responsible for dealing with you. So when the second prophet saw you coming, he informed me." "Dealing with me?" Batman asked in a low voice. "Am I also judged by the 3 prophets as someone who could destroy the world? It seems that there will be another minority report about me here soon. After reading the things recorded here, I really thought about whether or not I should just destroy this damned world." Fu Manzhou laughed. "The judgment of the 3 prophets. The 3rd prophet has defected, and there may be no more 3 prophets. You're dissatisfied with the 3rd prophet?" Yes, she was not as good as her father. She actually sympathized with someone who was destined to destroy the world. "The other 2 prophets had hearts of stone, right?" Batman said. "It's hard for me to imagine what words to use to evaluate the prophets. They saved the world from destruction, but they also imprisoned the world. I saw the secret of the world's destruction. 3 people with the ability to predict the future created a virtual world that accommodated everyone's consciousness. The 3 prophets system, heh." Batman sneered. "The 3rd prophet told us that the 3 prophets system was used to protect the world from being destroyed. It was used to predict the factors that might destroy the world, and then let their lackeys destroy these factors. But in fact, this judgment was used to eliminate the mutated programs in this virtual world, or rather, the viruses that were not under your control, right? The world was destroyed. A power known as death destroyed all humans. It caused the human spirit to collapse, and the wall of common sense collapsed. Everyone became chaotic and indescribable lunatics. Humans had no choice but to abandon the material world, and the first prophet created a universe that could accommodate everyone's spirit. This can be called great. In order to prevent the power of death from finding this subconscious ocean that accommodated everyone's consciousness, you found 2 other people with the ability to predict the future to form the 3 prophet system, so that the power of death could not lock onto the virtual world they created, which was a secret key composed of 3 constantly changing and unobservable variables. The 3 prophets were the secret key hidden in Zion's mother's body. Through the secret key composed of 3 constantly changing variables, a constantly changing, unlocked-on world of consciousness was hidden in the chaotic sea of consciousness of Death Knight, used to preserve everyone's consciousness. This world was the universe where Batman was now. The little spider didn't know that he had never traveled through time. After that battle, the power of the time gem stopped his time, which was undoubtedly a conspiracy of the Holy Shield. Then the disaster of death broke out, and the wall of common sense of all new humans collapsed, and the world instantly became hell on earth. The Marvel Universe was on the verge of destruction, and the ever-expanding Death Knight almost dragged down the entire intelligent life in the universe. The only way to save the world was for the Professor to pull everyone into a spiritual world, a world with consciousness. Then 3 prophets with the ability to predict the future sacrificed themselves to form the 3 prophet system, hiding the entire world as a set of constantly changing secret keys added to the IP address of the entire spiritual universe, so that death could not find out about this universe. This is Zion. This was the secret of the destruction of the previous world. This secret could not be known by anyone, because knowing itself would come into contact with death, because death could not be perceived, and it was the unknown death that guarded this world. Once death was known, it could lead to another disaster. However, The native residents of this spiritual universe, if one or two knew the truth, it would not attract the attention of death, because their consciousness had been cleansed and the soul gate deep in their consciousness had been opened. Their souls were completely distorted by the chaotic sea, and they were reborn through the first prophet. They were clean, they knew the truth, and there was no soul gate in their consciousness that led directly to death. And they were in the council headquarters with the most powerful prophets. They would not be locked by death. But there were two exceptions, and that was the little spider and Strange, who had not gone through the baptism of the collapse of consciousness. As long as one of them knew the truth, the soul gate hidden in their consciousness would be locked by the death knight, and the world would be locked by the power of death, just like Neo entered Zion. This was why the little spider was destined to destroy the world. This is the secret of the prophets. Why are they omniscient and omnipotent? Because this virtual world is under the control of these three people. They are antivirus software, checking for viruses in this world day after day. And the council is those who have been baptized by the chaotic sea of consciousness when the world was destroyed and still retain their self. You help the three prophets to kill the virus because you know the truth. The others in this world are the new students of blank minds without self. So, you have to create everything, protect the world, and accommodate the uncertain factors. Batman said, but not long ago, the first prophet had a problem, and the conflict between the three prophets suddenly broke out, and the third prophet defected to help Peter Parker, who might destroy the world in the future. And the second prophet, when the first prophet situation was unstable, obtained almost all the power. From the minority report issued by the second prophet, it could be seen that he was tired of constantly protecting the world, the dimensional order, and eliminating the unstable factors. He wanted control. The second prophet planned to completely control this virtual world, depriving everyone of their freedom, so the world would be forever stable, and there would be no more uncertain factors, and it would never be discovered by death. This idea was approved by some council members, so you started to change. Fu Manchu chuckled. He didn't know what Batman was talking about, which was why he hadn't made a move until now. But to say that Chunong was trying to control the world, Fu Manchu wasn't sure. He would not believe it even if he was beaten to death. He was a madman, a truly crazy person. Control had never been his ambition. What he hoped for was some unexpected surprises. Of course, it was a nightmare for others. So, Fu Manchu laughed and said in his heart, "Keep imagining it." Batman continued. Standing in front of the second prophet are the other two prophets. They keep each other in check. Obviously, the third prophet doesn't agree with the second prophet. She defected and secretly organized some possible opposition forces. She found me, thinking that I could expose the second prophet's plot. The only thing that troubled the second prophet was that this world could not be without any prophet. Only the three prophets together could protect this world. So, he could not destroy the other two prophets. Instead, he had to maintain their existence. This was something that the other prophets did not dare to go against. They had to protect this world first. So, after the third prophet defected, she was not too pressured by the second prophet. They wanted to maintain a situation where they fought without breaking, and then find a way to control and not kill each other. It would be best if the other party could become like the first prophet, able to maintain the world but unable to interfere with the outside world. Now, the second and third prophets are close to this secret. Chapter 1186. According to Chunang's plan, the 7 members of the League of Evil would face the 7 members of the Justice League, and Fu Manchu would be responsible for dealing with Batman. He should have the easiest time because Batman was just a mortal. The most powerful mortal was still a mortal. Batman's strength was in his tactical mind. Therefore, when he had enough information, he could defeat heroes and villains that were thousands of times stronger than him. However, this was completely ineffective against the Prophet because the Prophet's advantage in intelligence had reached a crushing level. Whatever the Prophet didn't want Bruce Wayne to know, he would never know. This was why Batman in Gotham City was still clueless when the mysterious world of magic had some understanding of the Council. In a situation where he didn't have enough information, and he was facing an opponent with overwhelming strength on a battlefield that was extremely disadvantageous to him. Chun-Ong could have picked anyone to defeat Batman without enough preparation. So, why did he have to arrange for Fu Manzhou to do it? That was because the person Chun-Ong wanted him to defeat was the brains of the Justice League, Batman, and not the mortal Bruce Wayne of Gotham City. At least, that was what Fu Manzhou thought. As a ruthless villain, the evilest Asian, Fu Manzhou had his own pride. His pride did not allow him to complete a job that was like a puppet. He wanted to defeat Batman at his strongest point. He wanted to fight a real Batman, not end his life like a slaughtering machine. Fu Manzhou listened to Batman talk about the information he found from the Minority Report and compared it with what he knew. He slowly understood Chun-Ang's idea. This was Chun-Ong demonstrating to him what he expected to defeat Batman. It was not as simple as killing a mortal, but to mislead the Justice League so that he would make the Justice League lose and Chun-Ang's plan succeed. It was just like how the Joker was obsessed with breaking the Dark Knight's spirit, forcing Batman to let go of his persistence and principles and agree with the Joker. Chun-Ong had also personally demonstrated that he had used intelligence to mislead and control Batman's thoughts. He had even personally appeared as a villain, using seemingly reasonable reasoning to cover up his true, crazy thoughts. Therefore, no one in the Evil Alliance knew Chun-Ang's real plan. Batman was saying so much because he wanted to obtain information. Batman didn't even believe it himself. They were underestimating him too much by expecting him to sneak into a seemingly heavily guarded place and obtain some sensational information through the Third Prophet's arrangement. The Third Prophet might have misled him, and the information he received might have been misleading. To verify this, he first had to expand the information exchange. Even if it was just a small talk, he had to say so much in front of Fu Manzhou and observe his reaction. "I thought you would give me a reaction after I said so much," Batman suddenly said. "But you just stood there like it had nothing to do with you." Fu Manzhou smiled. Batman had already begun his test. It seemed that this master of torture was not only proficient in using leather whips, wax dripping, pain, and fear to force the suspect to reveal information in a small, dark room, but he was also proficient in using exquisite language and superb acting skills to obtain information in the midst of people in suits and leather shoes under the bright lights of the night. Fu Manzhou said calmly, "It's not a good thing to know too much. These things have nothing to do with me." "If it has nothing to do with you, you shouldn't have listened to me," Batman said calmly. "This is a battle between prophets." Fu Manzhou pretended that he was just a small fry. His gray hair was slightly longer than Stark's, but his beard was neatly trimmed. He knew that Batman was good at psychology. Perhaps he was doing a close-up of himself. "The fact that you're here means that you've already obtained the support of a prophet, and the Lord behind me will only be stronger than her. So, you won't take anything with you today. You'll be buried here with all the secrets. The prophets can sense everything that has happened in the world. As you said, if this world is really a virtual world created by the prophets, then they can see all the data in this world. The Ultimate Archive was originally a black box created by a prophet, but the Third Prophet turned you into her virus, allowing you to sense everything in the black box. Being sensed by you means being sensed by her, so you don't have to say this on purpose. When you see the Minority Report, it's no longer a secret to the prophets." Fu Manzhou said meaningfully, "You're already an abandoned pawn. A Trojan virus that enters the black box is no longer of value to the authoritative ones. The Third Prophet has already obtained the information, so you're not here to stop me from leaking the truth." Batman's voice was hoarse. "No, you're here to stop the information from leaking because the Third Prophet has some sort of tacit understanding with you. Just because she knows something doesn't mean we know it. What you really want to stop is the information from leaking into the hands of the Justice Alliance." Batman had to eliminate the interference of his own subjective thoughts, and at the same time, he had to infer the truth from the limited information. At least he already knew that the Third Prophet could obtain the information he knew, so there was not much point in stopping the information from leaking. But the Second Prophet still sent people to stop him. This was not to kill to vent their anger, but an act with a purpose. Batman sorted out a series of information. Although he was still in the fog of the intelligence war, he at least guessed the enemy's next move. They had to ensure that the information was still within the scope of control that only the Prophet knew. Batman did not know what tacit understanding or agreement the second Prophet and the third Prophet had. But it was clear that the third Prophet's position was not against the second Prophet, nor was she with the Justice Alliance. The third Prophet's only position was herself. From this perspective, the third Prophet wanted to use the Justice Alliance, but it was unclear whether this use was good or bad. But at this time, Batman made the right judgment. In the enemy's headquarters, facing an enemy sent by the second Prophet to kill him, there was no way he could bring back information alive. In terms of information, only the Prophet could fight against the Prophet, and only those with authority could fight against those with authority. Although he had left a lot of clues before he left, these could only reveal part of the information revealed by the second Prophet before this trip, including the headquarters of the World Security Committee and some of the committee's secrets. The real important information had already been intercepted. Batman thought a lot at this moment, including the information about the Prophet that he could not distinguish between true and false. He found that even if he ignored the shocking assumption that the world was a virtual world created by the Prophet, with just the information he knew, it was impossible for him to mislead and defeat the Prophet. In the process of transmission of information, the Prophet, who could foresee everything, had a million ways to play with it. Only the Prophet can fight against the Prophet. This cliché flashed through Batman's mind. Now, there was only one possible channel of information, the third Prophet. To use the third Prophet, Batman's eyes narrowed. He had to establish a channel of communication with the third Prophet. The third Prophet's weakness was her personal quality. As long as he could communicate with the third Prophet, Batman was confident that he could influence the third Prophet. His only weapon now was his brain. The third Prophet knew everything and could cover all information, but her personal quality was not enough to make full use of this information. Didn't the third Prophet need a master tactician like Batman? She must have thought of this. Batman thought about it from the perspective of the third Prophet and realized that his value to the third Prophet was actually very important. As the known number one master tactician, once Batman and the third Prophet, who had unlimited intelligence ability, worked together, it would be an unbeatable combination. Why didn't the third Prophet think of this? Or rather, she had thought of it, and even more deeply, she had also thought of the fatal flaw. It was impossible for the two of them to trust each other. Batman did not trust anyone, and it was impossible for him to completely stand in someone else's position. Batman could not agree with the third Prophet's position, so the third Prophet had to be careful not to be used when using Batman's tactical ability. The third Prophet could not trust Batman at all. This state of mutual distrust made Batman useless to her. It was tasteless, but a pity to abandon him. That was why she used Batman as a sacrificial pawn to obtain information from the Minority Report. Batman had already thought of the key to breaking out of this situation. He had to create an environment where the third Prophet could trust him and then use the third Prophet. This kind of environment was very difficult to create because it was too late to create trust now. With the second Prophet next to him, Batman could not walk out of here alive. Even the second Prophet could not do anything about it. But who said that people could not be controlled, served, and influenced when they were dead? Batman thought it through. The only Batman that the third Prophet could trust was the Batman in her prophecy, the Batman in the future she saw. Batman had a bold idea. The Prophet could see all the futures. In that case, could she see the present future? In that case, could her current thoughts and existence also be in the future that she saw? Was the timeline that she was in really real? Did she exist in the uncertain future she saw? Or would the words she said now change the present? Because the present was the future to the third Prophet. Batman decided to give it a try. So he began to talk about an idea about Batman and the time trap. In the future the third Prophet saw, there was a timeline where Batman decided to be loyal to the third Prophet. Of course, the third Prophet would not believe it easily, But this Batman posed no threat to the third prophet at all, because this was just a future in which the third prophet previewed Batman's loyalty. This future would always exist in the future, because the third prophet did not have to let it happen in reality. So the third prophet could have a master tactician who only existed in the uncertain future to serve her. She could get Batman's service without worrying about his tricks, because this Batman only existed in her preview. This was a Batman that only existed for her. Safe, harmless. And this, the Batman in the time trap. The hiring method was very simple. The third prophet only needed to tell Batman's own plan in the future she previewed. Then the Batman in the preview would understand her plan and take the initiative to cooperate to create the time trap. And all the plots of the Batman in the preview would be discovered by the prophet, and the third prophet could trust him relatively. Perfect solution to all the obstacles. After Batman said this idea, he calmly died in the hands of Fu Manchu. But in reality, the third prophet suddenly opened his eyes. For the prophet, the timeline was vague, and the way it existed was beyond anyone's imagination. Now the timeline returned to before the third prophet tricked Batman into going to the Ultimate Archive to read the Minority Report. At this time, the most critical secret recorded in the Minority Report to the prophet collapsed and became an unknown. As for what this secret was, of course, it was not what was written in the previous chapter. It was not that the prophet could not hear it, but it was something that was not written at all. Because the previous chapter was a preview of the future, the secret was still a black box, still a secret. It could not be observed in the preview. And this preview of the future would never come true again. Because Batman's words before his death successfully moved the third prophet. He successfully broke the game, although he died in the preview. But he survived in reality. The third prophet would no longer calculate Batman's death. She would let Batman live and then tell Batman about the trick of being trapped in the time trap during the rehearsal. She would tell Batman about her plan and gain his trust. Then, she would create a Batman trapped in the time trap to come up with a plan for her. If Batman died in reality, then the third prophet would not be able to preview the future where Batman was still alive, and the exclusive think tank would no longer exist. Batman used his own value to break the deadlock. At the same time, Fu Manchu, who had sneaked back, buried his head after asking his doubts, only to hear Chen-Ong suddenly laugh. Chen-Ong said to him, "You lost your first battle with Batman. You can't kill him anymore because the third prophet won't allow it. Batman's tactical ability and the third prophet's intelligence. You won't have a chance anymore. You still disappoint me." Chen-Ong sighed. "If you still don't understand why you lost, go down." Chen-Ong said to him, "Losing in the future. How pitiful." Fu Manchu walked out of the temple with a dumbfounded expression. He came in full of confidence, then was suddenly judged to have lost. Then, he went out with a dumbfounded expression. Looking at the moon sky, Fu Manchu was full of confusion. What did I do? How did I lose? How did I lose? How do I win it back? Even if the intelligence was misguided, even if most of what he knew was false, even if he had no chance of winning the battle, even if he faced Chen-Ong malice, Batman still used a small part of the correct intelligence he knew to break the deadlock and win in the future. The first battle between the Evil Alliance and the Justice Alliance took place in the future, and the Justice Alliance's brain completely crushed the Evil Alliance. However, Chen-Ong was not disappointed. Instead, he smiled happily. Chapter 1187. Central City was located in Missouri, in the Midwest of the United States, adjacent to Keystone City. It was worth mentioning that Central City had developed well in the last century. Its economy and culture were among the best, and it was also the center of commerce, architecture, and art in the United States. It was known as the Jewel of the Midwest. However, with the opening of Keystone City, a large number of factories and commercial activities moved to Keystone City, and the development of Keystone City gradually surpassed that of Central City. However, despite this, Central City still retained a considerable amount of academic strength, such as Central City University, Central City Medical School, and of course, the most important TAR, Cutting Edge Science Laboratory. The cutting-edge science laboratory located by the river was once the pride of Central City, but because of an experimental accident, it collapsed. A red light quickly approached the former site of the cutting-edge science laboratory along the main road of Central City. The speed of the light was extremely fast. Only in a frame of reference that was slowed down to a nanosecond could one completely see its path. The red light passed through the endless flow of people and cars on the entire street, but it did not cause a single ripple because its speed was too fast. It was far beyond the limits of human eyes and surveillance cameras. Only the satellite of the cutting-edge science laboratory in space could capture a blurry red figure with 10 photos every nanosecond. Time seemed to stop around the red figure. "Do you feel any discomfort?" Barry said shyly. "This is the first time I've brought a normal person." He carried Reed on his back, and his legs quickly moved like a phantom. Golden lightning surrounded them, causing them to fall into a strange force field. Reed's body was pulled to twice its original length by Barry. If he was not lying on Barry's back, he would have scared the shy Barry out of his wits. Reed glanced at his body that was as elastic as rubber, and it could expand and contract freely. He calmly said, "I don't think I'm a normal person. I still have to thank you for helping me recover my memory." Out of the instinct of a scientist, Reed analyzed. "Although some of my memories are still very vague, I can already confirm that I should have been teleported from another world. I don't know why there is a Reed here, but I was indeed sent here because of a teleportation accident. As for where Dr. Reed of this world went and how I came to this world, it should be related to the cutting-edge science laboratory that pulled me into this world. That's why Batman asked me to bring you to the former site of the cutting-edge laboratory. Our fates were changed because of that accident, so I'll figure out what happened that day with you." Barry said seriously, "That's our origin in this world." Reed tried to catch the lightning circling Barry, and he succeeded. He used a battery-like item to store some of Barry's lightning speed. This was something he had been trying to do ever since he met Barry. After obtaining some of the Righteous Alliance's research resources, he finally succeeded after a period of endless research on Barry's back. Reed stole a bit of the golden lightning around Barry, but Barry didn't notice the slight weakening of the seraphic speed ability. Very soon, Barry stopped in front of a dilapidated building that looked like 3 towers inserted into the bottom of a ring. The place was overgrown with weeds, and there was no one around. It looked like it had been abandoned for several years. Barry looked at the familiar yet strange building and said in a low voice, "Ever since the accident a few years ago, this place has been forgotten by Central City." Reed secretly put away the electromagnetism and looked up. This universe is really getting stranger and stranger. He looked at the seemingly dilapidated building and felt that there was something strange inside, like a black hole that led to the unknown, and there was something alive inside. Seeing Reed pry open the door, Barry hurried over to help. "I don't think there's anything strange about it. Isn't it illegal to go in like this? We're trespassing on private property. Are you going to ask the judge for a search warrant?" Reed walked straight in. He raised the flashlight in his hand, obviously ready to go in and see what was going on. Barry was a little conflicted, but he still followed. "Oh my God, you're really going to ask for a search warrant?" Reed saw the materials that Barry had prepared to search the cutting-edge laboratory. Barry said honestly, "I have a good relationship with Central City's judicial department. I'm going to ask Amanda for a search warrant." Reed saw the traces of the explosion left behind between the 3 high-rise buildings of the cutting-edge laboratory and went up to take a closer look. These are traces left behind by a high-energy particle beam. There are burns caused by plasma on the surface of the building. Looking at the diffraction traces, the energy level of this experiment far exceeded its experimental plan. "You're right. This isn't a particle accelerator at all. This is a large-scale experiment. A particle beam with at least 10 million times the intensity occurred. Look at the neutron radiation damage. There's at least the energy of 1,000 nuclear bombs exploding here. This energy is enough to pierce through space and time." Reed said in disbelief, "They actually gave up here. This place is worth at least 3 Nobel Prizes." "There are Nobel Prizes there too?" Barry said in surprise. "So many coincidences? Is it a parallel world, or It's not a parallel world. Reed stood up from his study of the diffraction traces on the marble slabs on the ground, clapped his hands, and said, I've studied the parallel worlds of our universe. No matter which direction the parallel world's timeline develops in, its laws of physics will not change. This is because the bottom of the parallel world is unified at low latitudes. So no matter how different the parallel worlds are, there can't be fundamentally different laws of physics. And our universe doesn't have any godly speed power. Reed said firmly, the godly speed power you've mastered can completely prove that we're in two different universes. This is an exchange between two different universes, so what happened here that day was really shocking. Traveling through parallel worlds may not be difficult, but traveling through different multiverses, this is very miraculous. Batman was deep in thought in the time trap. After a long time, he raised his head and said, the minority report from the committee revealed that the universe Reed and Peter are in is not an alternate universe, but a world that was destroyed in the previous generation. However, Dr. Reed believes that if it's the same multiverse, the laws of physics must be the same, and our universe has the godly speed power that doesn't exist in the previous world, so our world is not in the same universe. There's no doubt that these two statements are in conflict. If our universe was reborn from the destruction of their world, then why did the godly speed power appear? Only by figuring this out can we really get to the truth, Batman said. And it doesn't exist in the previous world, and there are two kinds of powers that exist in our world that are close to the fundamental laws of physics. We should all investigate how these powers appeared. First, write it down, and I'll let them investigate. 1 is the emotional spectrum power possessed by Green Lantern. Green Lantern returned to the headquarters of the Lantern Corps 3 years ago. You have to find him. The other is the anti-life equation. This power is very dangerous, and it's still a mystery. Don't come into contact with it unless it's the most dangerous time. Are you sure this place has been abandoned? Reed looked at the ruins of the particle accelerator, and his expression was a little uneasy. They had originally planned to investigate by examining the wreckage of the particle accelerator to find some hidden clues, but now it seemed that there was no wreckage. In the original location of the particle accelerator, there was a powerful godly speed energy and a black hole with countless bolts of various colors entangled together. Barry the Flash trembled in front of this powerful godly speed energy. His voice changed, and he said in horror, I feel that my ability comes from it. All the energy in my body is created by it. The godly speed power is created by it and used by me. It's an engine that produces the godly speed power. Reed approached the black hole and observed without caring about his life. This is a complicated spatial structure. This is the source of the godly speed power of this universe. Reed's common sense collapsed. How can the laws of physics of a universe originate from an object? How can a physical quantity have a so-called engine? God doesn't exist, and there's no first cause of creation. Could it be that what Sir Newton said was true, that the forces in the universe originate from a first cause, and that the speed of light in the universe also originates from a first cause? From the godly speed engine? Reed's face crumbled. This was completely contrary to his worldview. He did not want to admit that this world and he originated from the same universe at all. On a certain day, a few years ago, when the cutting-edge science laboratory began the particle accelerator experiment, Chief Designer Chenong stood at the scene with a serious expression, wearing a hard hat. He asked, is the hamster ball ready? The hamster ball was a special space code named Hamster Ball. It was created by the Republic's space bubble technology. It was a completely enclosed, small, spherical universe. Although its volume was very small, its structure was indeed a complete four-dimensional universe. Release the hamster, Chenong ordered. Space began to distort, and a black wormhole suddenly opened in the void. Dr. Reed was thrown out of it like a piece of trash. This was an unprecedented success. It was the first time a human was successfully transported into the universe. However, Chenong did not even look at him. He continued to stare at the wormhole until he saw a red lightning appear in the black hole. The hamster has entered the ball, Chenong said nervously. The small space bubble of the hamster ball instantly captured the red lightning. The red lightning panicked and fell into a space-time trap. An extremely fast lightning moved in the universe of the hamster ball, and the universe of the hamster ball began to merge with this universe, creating bolts of lightning. This was the godly speed power. Chun-Ong said excitedly, "I announced that the first model of the universe's godly speed engine, the hamster ball, has been successfully developed. To celebrate this success, Chun-Ong guided a bolt of godly speed lightning down. The lightning caused a big explosion and hit young Barry, who was far away from the experimental team. No one knew that the mysterious godly speed engine, the engine that could change the laws of physics, had the same principle as the pet hamster ball. Through space technology, a sealed hamster ball was created. Then a hamster that could only create godly speed power was captured. Through the constant movement of the hamster inside the ball, it would drive the movement of the ball-shaped universe and create a huge godly speed power. This was the entire principle of the seemingly advanced technology of the godly speed engine. Its details might be very advanced. Whether it was the space technology that created the ball-shaped universe, or the universe that used the godly speed power to create the law of godly speed power, they all required a very advanced level of technology. However, this did not change the fact that it was simple, easy, and anti-intellectual. No matter how Chun-Ong rated and ridiculed this godly speed power creation experiment, in the eyes of Reed and Barry, who came to the front of the godly speed engine, this engine that was constantly creating godly speed power was extremely terrifying. It overturned all their thoughts. Of course, they did not think that this was just a ball used by the godly speed hamster to generate electricity while running. Instead, they felt that it was very mysterious, very scary, and indescribable. Reed's lips trembled slightly. He looked obsessively at the wormhole that was surrounded by the godly speed power and had not closed for several years. He could also see that the core of the godly speed power still maintained the space-time of that day. The closer he got to the core of the godly speed power, the slower time became. Reed finally understood why the various traces looked more and more fresh as he walked deeper into the laboratory. Because the time at the core did not flow for long at all. This was the slow flow of time created by the godly speed power. At the place closest to the lightning ball of the godly speed power, several researchers were still frozen there, their expressions still frozen at the moment of the success of the experiment. Their twisted expressions were a mixture of disbelief, surprise, fear, and confusion. Barry looked at the godly speed engine in front of him and suddenly understood the source of his ability. When the experiment was successful that day, a strand of godly speed power accidentally leaked out and hit Barry, who was in the outer laboratory, allowing Barry to obtain the godly speed power. And this was the place where all the godly speed power was created. That experiment was not to capture Reed, nor was it to study the connection to other universes, but to create the godly speed power. "This is unbelievable," Reed said with a trembling voice. "So someone really created the laws of physics. There really is a first force." Sir Newton was right. God pushed the universe, and force was produced. Someone here pushed the universe, and the godly speed power was produced. At the beginning of all forces, there really was a first cause. God caught a hamster and stuffed it into a ball, and thus the world had the power of hamsters. The hamster was the first force of the universe. Chapter 1188. It happened in a preview of the future. Batman analyzed to the third prophet. Barry returned to the cutting-edge technology laboratory and found the Godspeed generator. Batman sat on a chair in the Batcave and thought for a while with one hand on his chin. He said, "If that's the case, the power of Godspeed might have been created later, if the world we're in was really created by the prophet after the destruction of the previous world. Then why did the prophet create the Godspeed power?" The third prophet shook her head. "Don't look at me, I don't know. Although I'm the third prophet, I wasn't the third prophet from the beginning. At first, I thought that the first prophet saved the destroyed world, and then found the other two prophets to form the three-prophet system. I was just a person who took over the previous third prophet because of good luck. But now it seems that the rumor that the first prophet saved the world independently is becoming more and more unreliable. I suspect that all three prophets were involved in the destruction and reconstruction of the world last time, and the one who created the Godspeed power should be the second prophet. Then how did the previous third prophet die? Batman asked solemnly. The third prophet frowned and said, "He was an old man called the Professor. His lower limbs were paralyzed. I've never seen him. When I became the third prophet, he had already been dead for a long time. There seems to be another prophet in the middle. He once temporarily took over the position of the third prophet, but then he resigned and disappeared. No matter why the second prophet created the Godspeed power, we have to dig out the truth. This is definitely related to the ultimate goal of the second prophet. It can be said that we finally found a clue to understand his intentions. We have to follow this clue and dig further." Batman suggested, "Go find Green Lantern. He can contact the 7 lanterns who have mastered the emotional spectrum. They must know something." The third prophet's expression was a little ugly. She said with some difficulty, "Although I'm the third prophet, no one is loyal to me. Bruce, you should know that the people of the Justice League are on guard against us. They won't listen to me, and Peter, we can't let Peter go." Batman said, "He's definitely an important figure in the second prophet's plan. We can't take this risk." The third prophet said angrily, "Then why should I reveal the information to you? Bruce, you always have a way to reveal the information to yourself. I suspect that one day you will let yourself know the situation here, and then control me. But I don't have a second choice. I hate situations where I don't have a choice. I hope you can give me another choice in the future." After that, the prophet dispersed the rehearsal. She thought back to the conversation just now, selected some things, edited them into an email, and sent it to Batman. After sending it successfully, she left without looking back. In the watchtower, Batman received the email. After reading it, he confirmed what he had guessed. There was another him working with him, and he was most likely still under the control of the prophet. He even had a rough idea of which prophet was controlling him. He had successfully obtained the intelligence advantage from the prophet. From the moment the Justice League received the true core secret of the three-prophet system, Batman had been making arrangements. Now that he had verified the other side's thoughts, Batman was just habitually profiling the other side. But he did not expect the other side to be so cooperative. They did not hide their identities in their plans and intelligence analysis. A few familiar characteristics were known only to Batman, and he had thought it was a conspiracy. Later, he found that it might be a clue left behind by himself. The other him, the world was once destroyed because of a power called death. The prophet saved the world and created the world today, but the physical laws of the world changed. The lightning speed power, which originally did not exist in this world, was created by the second prophet. The fog in Batman's heart slowly dissipated, and the clues were pieced together bit by bit. There were still a few key pieces of the puzzle that had not been found. Second prophet, what are you trying to do? Which side is the third prophet on? And what is the first prophet doing? Batman still had many questions in his heart. First, I have to find Green Lantern. Batman knew what to do next. The 7 lanterns should have some secrets. There were not many heroes left in the Watchtower. Superman went to Earth to deal with some hidden dangers left after Luthor's death, and, at the same time, tried to investigate the situation of the committee. Little Spider, on the other hand, came to the base of the world's largest hero team to visit, and even formed a good relationship with some heroes. He might even join the Justice League. However, Batman was still secretly guarding against him. After thinking for a while, Batman found steel bones. Can the tunnel still be used? Batman asked straightforwardly. Steel bones frowned, and the red light emitted from his electronic eyes flickered twice. I haven't mastered the technology from the mother box yet. It's very unstable, and there's a possibility of a teleportation error. We need Green Lantern to send me to Planet OA with the mother box. That's very risky, Steel Bones said with some doubts. We can wait for Superman to return or find someone to send us there. There's no need to use such a dangerous method. The mother box will instinctively teleport us to Planet Apocalypse. If I don't have time to change the coordinates, Planet Apocalypse might no longer have enemies. Batman thought of the Minority Report that marked Darkseid. The Third Prophet had sent a portion of the Minority Report to the Justice League, but Batman did not tell anyone else because he did not trust them. He interrupted Steelbones. And we're running out of time, but you won't tell us anything. You won't even tell us why we're looking for Green Lantern. Steelbones said unhappily. He's already left Earth, and the Justice League still has us. Only Green Lantern can do this. I want to know the origin of the emotional spectrum. Batman had to explain. Barry found the origin of lightning speed in the cutting-edge laboratory in Central City. I suspect that the emotional spectrum might have the same origin. All right. Steelbones considered it for a moment before agreeing to Batman's request. However, he still emphasized, no matter what, Bruce, you can't hide it from us. The reason why the Righteous Alliance exists is to face the danger our world faces together and gather all our strength. It's not a tool you use to control us. Bruce, you're hiding more and more things. The Alliance's suspicions about you are growing. Everyone suspects that your fear will destroy you and us. Steelbones warned. Stand closer. I'm going to open the mother box. A thunderous sound and golden light instantly tore everything apart, shaking the entire watchtower. Wonder Woman rushed out of the training room and saw Batman and Steelbones standing in front of a spinning golden vortex. A powerful gravitational force was pulling them into the vortex. Wonder Woman was puzzled. Why did you open the rumbling tunnel? Before the two of them could answer her, they were swallowed into the vortex. Diana jumped in without hesitation and followed them into the teleportation tunnel. The unpleasant teleportation experience made Diana secretly angry. It felt like she had been stuffed into a rampaging washing machine, stirred for 3 days and 3 nights, and then rolled out. As the light and shadow changed, Diana saw her environment clearly. This was the ruins of a magnificent city. Countless tall buildings were either collapsed, half-collapsed, or abandoned. Diana looked down and saw that she was stepping on a decaying skeleton. She took 2 steps back in shock and saw that the skeleton she touched turned into ashes as if it had been weathered for thousands of years. What shocked Diana even more was that only a dim green light ring was left in the ashes. When she looked up again, she finally had a chance to take a closer look at the specific situation of the ruins. This was an artificial planet, extremely magnificent and vast. A city was a planet, guarded by countless lanterns. Diana still remembered the last time she came here. There were countless lanterns flying in the sky. This was the station of the Cosmic Guardian Corps. The Guardians here were a group of ancient creatures living on planet Oa, the first generation of life with eternal life. The Green Lantern Corps had existed for 3 billion years and had experienced battles large and small, but they were still alive. With planet Oa as the center, the entire universe was divided into 3,600 sectors. Each sector had at least 1 Green Lantern assigned to it, so it was estimated that there were more than 7,200 Green Lanterns serving the Green Lantern Corps. Such glory could be vaguely seen in the ruins. Those different races had different forms. Some had human-like bone structures, and some had completely different bone structures. Diana could imagine these different races of lanterns guarding planet Oa and the universe. But now they were all dead, and the entire planet Oa had been destroyed. The day is bright, the night is vast. Demons and monsters, there is nowhere to hide. The evil traitors fear my light. The Green Lantern is always bright, the light of all ages. However, the everlasting Green Lantern energy had been extinguished, and the entire planet Oa was in darkness. Diana saw Batman and Steelbones standing in front of her and walked up to them, wanting to ask what was going on. However, when she climbed up the slope, she found that there was a huge crater in front of her, and it was filled with the skeletons of lanterns. The densely packed rings of light made Diana's body go cold. She also saw light rings of other colors: red, yellow, blue, purple, orange, indigo, and white that she had never seen before. The number of light rings here made her feel that the entire seven-lantern core of the universe had died here. Diana heard Batman say in a low voice, as expected, we are still too late." The shock in Batman's heart was indescribable. To cover up the secret, the mastermind had slaughtered the entire Seven-Lantern Corps. He knew why Hal had rushed to the headquarters in a hurry. It turned out that all the survivors of the Seven-Lantern Corps had retreated to the headquarters of the Green Lantern Corps, Planet OA, to resist. Then, they were all killed. The Seven-Lantern Corps had been destroyed 3 years ago. At that time, the plan should have already begun. The Seven-Lantern Corps should have grasped the real secret that could threaten the mastermind, so they were the most determined to be eradicated. They were also the first to be eliminated. Batman still could not think of anyone who could slaughter the entire Green Lantern Corps and the other Six Lantern Corps. That was the strongest force of justice in the universe. It could be seen that the survivors of the Seven Lantern Corps had abandoned all prejudices and ideological conflicts, uniting like never before. But they still could not defeat that mysterious enemy. Batman still could not understand. If the emotional spectrum was the power created by the Second Prophet, why did he destroy the Seven Lantern Corps? If it was not the Second Prophet who destroyed the Seven Lantern Corps, then who could it be? Who could have such a powerful force? Chun-Ong flipped through the Minority Report in his hand. Seven Lantern Corps. The smile on his face was unfathomable. The emotional spectrum was one of the few threats that could destroy the world. The power of the Black Lantern represented death. When the Black Lantern appeared in this universe, it would become the coordinates and carrier of death. It was almost equivalent to a hyperlink to the Death Knight. Therefore, the Seven Lantern Corps had a reason to be destroyed, but the reason for its destruction had nothing to do with the Black Lantern of Death. Batman also noticed the 7 white light rings among the light rings. He felt that one of the rings seemed to be summoning him. Batman looked at Steelbones and Diana and realized that they were also looking at him. He knew that the two of them had also felt the summoning. So, Batman walked into the deep pit and picked up a white light ring that was resonating with him. Diana and Steelbones also picked up the rings that were summoning them. The three of them looked at each other and decided to wear the rings. Chapter 1189. When Batman put on the ring, everything seemed to have returned to 3 years ago. He heard Hal's voice. Why does he want to destroy us? Is it really because he believes that we will bring destruction? Batman turned around and saw Hal. He was talking to a little blue man wearing a white robe similar to a Jedi Master. The little blue man was the master of Planet OA and the guardian of the Green Lantern Corps, Ganther. They were the earliest intelligent life forms in the universe, and they had advanced technology and civilization a long time ago. After a huge disaster, the Guardians came to Planet OA and created the Green Lantern Corps. The light ring on Ganther's hand had turned blue. He said to Hal, "There is a prophecy in the book of OA about darkness. Every user of the energy ring must use their own light to fight against the darkness." Said, and I both believed that the prophecy was true, but the other Guardians thought it was nonsense. They deceived themselves and destroyed the prophecy, then banished us in the name of emotion. That is why we want to find the blue light ring and created the Blue Lantern Corps. As the 7 colors of emotional energy found their own users, we realized that the day of the prophecy was not far away. But we did not expect that there would be someone who believed in the prophecy more than we did, and his thinking was different from ours. Hal said solemnly, "Is that the cause of this disaster? Just because of fear of a new prophecy? You don't understand that kind of darkness. The different colored lights originate from the power of emotions. The green light represents will, the yellow light represents fear, the purple light represents love, the red light represents anger, the green light represents sympathy, the orange light represents greed, and the blue light represents hope. These 7 lights will one day form their own teams and engage in a battle of lights. Then the blackest night will descend. The black light represents death. It will devour all life." Ganther sighed. "The most terrifying thing is that when the black light appears, death, who has been searching for this world, will find this place, and the world protected by the prophet will be destroyed instantly. so the black light cannot fight against it. Although it originates from the power of the emotional spectrum, the white light of life cannot compete with it at all, because there's an even more powerful force of death watching this world. I've racked my brains to find an answer to darkest night, but all I can see is darkness of despair. Faced with this dark future, someone has finally made a different choice. What choice? Hal asked. Since darkness is caused by light, and the darkest night is caused by the gathering of the seven lanterns' core, then to eliminate darkness, we must eliminate light. If we want to stop blackest night, we have to destroy the seven lanterns' core first. Gantz handed a thin document to Hal. Hal took a look. Minority Report, 9 Lanterns Core. The prophet made a prophecy. Only by stopping the seven lanterns' core from gathering can the world be saved. He gave us a notice. Once all 7 core are born, the committee will start to destroy 1 or 2 core to maintain the balance of terror. Based on experience, they will usually choose the core with negative emotions, such as red light and orange light. But someone felt that instead of maintaining the balance of terror, it would be better to completely solve the problem. He believed that the prophet had foretold the key to completely solve the problem, but he was unwilling to carry out his own concept of creation, protection, and shelter. That was why he chose to delay. That's why he stole this minority report and found a way to completely resolve Blackest Night. That is, to completely destroy the seven lanterns' core. Ganther said calmly. Hal suddenly trembled. He raised his head and looked at the distant sky. He's here, he said in a low voice. On planet OA, countless green lights accompanied the green lanterns as they shot into the sky. Powerful lanterns rose one after another in the city. The energy of the green lights was molded into energy bodies of various shapes. Many lanterns used their will to mobilize the electromagnetic power of the central energy source of planet OA. Together, they formed a huge light shield that covered the entire planet. Countless green energy arrows pierced through the energy shield and shot toward a black dot at the edge of their vision. They could see that it was a figure. The figure just waved his hand and destroyed all the energy bodies rushing toward him. The energy bodies of thousands of lanterns were shattered. The most special of the green lanterns, a planet with self-awareness, appeared in front of planet OA. Its unparalleled body was thousands of times larger than planet OA. The power of the Ring of Light depended purely on the willpower of the user. The strength of the self-awareness of the planet was countless times stronger than that of humans. Its willpower could easily crush a planet of the same size with the Ring of Light. This special Green Lantern had the power to destroy a sector of the universe. The power of the Ring of Light was molded into an extremely destructive ion radiation source. Green energy bodies continuously gathered from the surface of the huge planet to a point directly facing the figure, until the energy was so strong that it could easily penetrate a planet and distort space. Even the protective shield created by thousands of lanterns to protect planet OA could not withstand it. The beam of light quickly burst out and shot straight into the dark universe, penetrating the tiny figure. In an instant, the entire planet OA was silent. Had this powerful enemy been destroyed? The figure of the Lord of Red Lanterns, Adahidas, appeared beside Hal. His body was burning with a fiery red energy, so much so that Hal felt suppressed when he was near him. Although the Lord of Red Lanterns did not show it on the surface, Hal could already feel the anger in his heart. He was so angry that he was willing to compromise, to let go of the hatred of his homeland being massacred, and ask for help from his mortal enemy, Planet OA. This attack won't be enough to kill that demon. Arrogant Green Lantern, Adahidas said in a low voice. You can actually remain calm after seeing me. Hal was surprised. The Red Lanterns were in the color zone far from the center of the spectrum, so the user was more easily controlled by the power of the Ring of Light. The energy of the Red Lanterns burned with anger that would never be extinguished. Even if the Lord of Red Lanterns, Adahidas, had limited thinking, he should not be able to maintain his rationality. Because I have a target that I hate even more. Adahidas said as he looked at the center of the powerful ion beam that engulfed him. The ion beam dissipated, and the figure disappeared without a trace. Time seemed to have stopped for tens of seconds, but the lanterns realized that the enemy had been eliminated. Instantly, the entire planet OA erupted in cheers of victory. But including Hal, the Guardians of the Universe, the Lord of Red Lanterns, and the other ring of light messengers, none of them could laugh. An alien lantern that looked exactly like a squirrel on Earth flew towards Hal. He said worriedly, "Something is wrong, Hal." However, Hal saw countless particles in the vacuum gathering outside the energy shield. In the barren space of the universe, there were only tens of thousands of particles per square meter. Therefore, many particles, including small particles of the quark level, were needed to gather enough matter to build a human body. A blue energy body glowed, and a tall, naked male earthling body appeared in the vacuum. His eyes were completely white, and his body was made up of a blue energy body. He floated in the vacuum, sticking close to the energy shield formed by the green energy body. The bald, blue-skinned man quietly looked down at the people on planet OA, including the lanterns. He gently snapped his fingers, and the planet-level lantern found that the nuclear fusion energy reaction surging in his planet's core began to become abnormal. Just like a human's heartbeat began to accelerate, the nuclear reaction of his planet's core also began to intensify. The originally smooth fusion process began to go out of control. He could feel that this was the accumulation of energy for a chain reaction. Soon, the energy generated by the fusion reaction was enough to detonate a part of the planet's core. Its heart was turning into a bomb. No! The planet with autonomous consciousness roared angrily, unwilling to give up. Soon, it was blown into pieces by the expanding force from the inside. The planet's core had exploded. The self-exploding planet could destroy planet OA, but the bald, blue-skinned man did not let this happen. He watched the exploding planet, causing the planet's outer shell to collapse under the control of a powerful force. The force of the inward collapse neutralized the force of the planet's nuclear explosion, causing the entire planet to quietly shatter. After dealing with the stumbling block, the bald, blue-skinned man turned his eyes to planet OA. He stretched out his hand, and the energy shield that the lanterns had materialized to protect planet OA began to shatter. Under his gaze, the bodies of the lanterns began to disintegrate one after another, decomposing into skeletons in the sky before falling to the ground. What he displayed was a crushing, unparalleled power. Hal was as shocked as Batman and the others who were watching all this. He seemed to have some memories of this man, active during the Cold War, once leading the heroic team the Watchmen, considered by the U.S. government to be the strongest force on their side, and deeply feared by humans. In the end, he created a nuclear explosion, united the United States and the Soviet Union, and then disappeared mysteriously. Dr. Manhattan, you claim to be protecting the world, but you are actually creating terrible things. The more dazzling the light on your body, the deeper the darkness it breeds. Things have come to this. There is no second choice but destruction. I am not here out of malice, but I must still destroy you. Dr. Manhattan said, "I'm sorry." At that moment, a strong blue light swept across the entire planet OA, and most of the lanterns turned into ashes in the blue light, leaving only skeletons behind. This seemed to be the proof that Manhattan had left behind for them. Only the most powerful of the lanterns survived, including Hal Jordan, Adahidas, Skalos, who seemed to be a combination of a dragon and a demon, the Meow alien spirit Lee, the Orange Lantern Master Laveriais, Sinisto, as well as a few core members of the Psi Family Army and the Green Lantern Army. The Blue Lantern Army's Ganthet, Sid, Saint Walker, Sari, the Green Lantern Master Green Maiden, the Blue Lantern Queen, Caro, and the Destined Woman. Everyone else was dead. Their rings of light fell into the dust. Then, a battle of life and death unfolded before the eyes of Batman and the other two. They saw the remaining lanterns and ring controllers attacking Dr. Manhattan with hatred. However, Dr. Manhattan was silent, or even slow, as he killed them one by one. Their struggles posed no threat to Dr. Manhattan. The anger grew, and the fear grew. Even Hal fell into endless hatred and despair when Carol was killed by Dr. Manhattan. In the end, he took the initiative to merge with the Parallax Monster. All the Lantern Beasts of the Seven Lanterns Corps appeared, but they were still crushed and killed by Dr. Manhattan. In the end, only the Seven Lantern Masters were still alive. Adahidas, Lavles, Sinisto, Hal Jordan, Ganther, Green Maiden, Queen Azurite. In despair, the Seven Lantern Masters abandoned all their grudges and took the initiative to share their power with each other. In the gathering of the seven colors of light, the white light of life was born. The spirit of existence responded to their resonance and gave them the power of the white light. However, after obtaining the white light, they were still powerless and died in the hands of Dr. Manhattan. Or rather, Dr. Manhattan deliberately let the white light appear, and after achieving his goal, he killed them. When Dr. Manhattan stretched out his hand and clenched it lightly, the Seven Lantern Masters were swallowed by a huge tide of energy. The particles that formed their bodies turned into light and disappeared, leaving behind a huge crater. The power of the white light dissipated. Batman and the others fell into the dust, covered in sweat, and fell into a nightmare. The fear engraved in the white light followed them like a shadow, plunging them into despair. Chapter 1190. After returning to the headquarters of the Watchtower, Batman and the other two looked gloomy. The heroes in the lounge did not feel the approaching darkness. They were chatting and talking about the recent news. The biggest news recently was that Luthor had stirred up trouble again. He had secretly cloned Superman's genes and created a monster Superman, Bizarro. Other than that, the entire world was in peace. Nothing major had happened. Although he already knew that the Seven Lanterns Corps had been destroyed by Dr. Manhattan 3 years ago, something big enough to shake the entire alliance, Batman was not prepared to say it. It was useless to let these people know. The enemy was still hiding in the dark, and the conspiracy was still going on. Now was not the time to reveal everything to the world. They needed to investigate in secret and figure out what the people in the World Security Council were doing and what the three prophets were thinking. Batman had convinced Steelbones and Wonder Woman to control the situation to the core of the Justice League, which was the Seven Titans. Batman had already thought of the next clue, whether it was the creation of Seraphic Speed or the massacre of the Seven Lanterns Corps. It was all an attempt to cover up a fact. That's right, Batman had never believed the reason why Dr. Manhattan had massacred the Seven Lanterns Corps. The so-called Darkest Night, the Black Lantern of Death, naturally existed. But Manhattan had massacred the entire Seven Lanterns Corps. That was impossible. The real reason for Manhattan's massacre should be the origin of this universe. The origin of the Seven Lanterns Corps definitely hid an unspeakable secret. The key to everything was hidden in the history of the destruction of the world that the committee had tried to cover up. All the clues were gathered at that point in time, from the destruction of the world due to death to the time when the three prophets created the world together. I can go back in time, but I can't go beyond the time when I obtain my power. The further I go, the more blurred the time outside of Seraphic Speed becomes. It's as if there's an invisible barrier preventing me from going past that crucial point in time. Barry was always on call. Diana had called him, but before she could put down the phone, he had appeared out of nowhere. When answering Batman's question, Barry was a little hesitant. He did not know if he should tell Batman his guess. But Batman had obviously seen through his thoughts. He said directly, "It seems like you already have an answer." "It's not an answer, it's just a guess. I originally thought that the reason I couldn't cross the time limit to obtain God's speed was because of the time paradox. Just like if I return to the time when I obtained my power and stop myself from obtaining God's speed, the grandmother paradox will appear. I can't use the power, I don't have to change my past. But this time, after discovering the lightning speed engine in the cutting-edge technology laboratory, I have a feeling. The seraphic speed is a power that runs through the entire world. The moment it appears in this world, it connects the past and the future. The black hole wrapped in lightning is the origin." "What do you mean by origin?" Diana didn't quite understand. The Flash had no choice but to explain. Time is four-dimensional, and any matter in time has four-dimensional attributes. But in the middle of that black hole, I saw the collapse of the space dimension layer by layer until it reached the origin. The Flash tried to use scientific language to explain the special point, but Diana was a science illiterate. She's good at cutting people with a sword, but when it comes to science, her knowledge is limited to using a smartphone. She's no better than the 1 billion illiterate people in India. The Flash had to take out his lunch, a 3-layer cheeseburger. He pointed to the first layer of cheese and said, "For example, this is a point in time in the past." Then he pointed to the top of the burger and said, "This is our current point in time." And the Flash scratched at the sesame seeds on the surface of the burger. "We are points that move in different planes of time. Points in the same position on the same plane of time can be connected to form a vertical line, and that is the history of our existence." The Flash suddenly stretched out his hand and pressed down hard on the center of the burger. His fingers sank into the bun, and 2 fingers pinched through the burger. He showed Diana the hole he had made. All the different times of the surface began to gradually pull in, and then overlapped at one point, finally forming a hole that did not exist on the surface. This is the origin. A point in the same position on all the planes of time suddenly coincides, and the 4-dimensional time, 3-dimensional space, and 2-dimensional space all collapse toward one point. It's like an anchor running through the entire timeline. Diana was only literate, but she was not stupid. She quickly understood. That black hole can take us back to the past. Barry hurriedly shook his head and said, "The origin can't take us back to the past. In fact, the origin is very dangerous. There is no concept of time in the origin, so there is no past or future. After we enter the origin, we lose our coordinates in time and space, and we lose the concept of time. In theory, anyone who enters the origin will cease to exist. But the origin is formed by the power of lightning speed. So I can use the power of lightning speed to protect you into the origin, but I don't know where it leads to. I also don't know what dangers there are. Everything is unknown." Batman thought for a while and replied, "We'll bring the key in." Barry was dumbfounded. He stammered, "Bruce, you can't do this. He's just a child." "Hey!" The little spider came out of the restaurant and saw Batman and the others gathered together. He came up to greet them excitedly and said, "Batman, your food is really good. Isn't this Alan's Supreme Cheeseburger? Buddy, you disappeared halfway through your meal after receiving a call. I thought something big had happened. Has everyone eaten?" Seeing the gloomy expressions on their faces, the little spider suddenly realized that something had happened here that he did not understand. So he could only swallow the rest of his words and prepare to leave after a weak greeting. Batman said in a low, hoarse voice, "That child is the key to everything. He must come with us. If someone wants to plot against us, then they will restrain themselves. Also, there are some clues about what happened before the world was destroyed that only he knows. None of us know what the previous world was like." Batman ignored Barry and Diana, who were silently expressing their opposition, and turned to the little spider. "Boy, we need your help. We found an origin that connects to the past. It may lead to the world you came from, and even if it doesn't, there should be clues about how you came to this world. It's a key point, but it's dangerous. Do you want to go?" The little spider said excitedly, "Is there really a clue? Do you want to take back the eye of Agamotto?" "You'd better not bring that thing." Batman said honestly, "We don't trust that thing." Since the little spider had said that, the others could not object. The 5 of them returned to the cutting-edge laboratory ruins in Central City, in front of the black hole that was constantly creating lightning speed power and spreading this power through the entire timeline. The black hole that was enveloped by the golden lightning was still stable. Looking at the lightning that was originally moving at the speed of light, crawling slowly in the black hole, spreading out in the black void like a flower branch and releasing golden patterns, one could feel that the closer one got to the black hole, the slower time would pass. Time had never been so clearly interpreted. Barry looked at the black hole and whispered, "It should be the origin that's blocking us from going further back in time." Batman shook his head and said, "Not necessarily. I think a certain person named Manhattan is more suspicious. I thought that the person behind all this was the second prophet, but in my investigation, I found that we were not actually affected by the second prophet, or else we wouldn't have been able to see many things. If we're getting close to that conspiracy, it shouldn't be going so smoothly. So this smooth sailing makes me very uneasy, Batman said. The closer we get to the truth, the more danger we should be in. But I don't feel this kind of danger, unless the truth is part of that conspiracy. The little spider almost blurted out. When he reacted, he realized that everyone was looking at him. The little spider felt a little guilty, but Batman said, "You're right. That's what I'm worried about." Batman took the lead and began to approach the black hole. Barry hurriedly released lightning speed power to protect them, and they entered the black hole. The origin ran through the entire timeline, so it was impossible to go back through the origin because the past was included in the origin. If they went forward, they could only go before time, which was the origin before the Big Bang, before the birth of the fourth dimension, which was where Stark and Rogers had been. The little spider could not see Messiah because his vision could not go beyond the origin. He could only see the origin of the Big Bang, and there was a person there. At the moment the Big Bang spread, time was born with the explosion, and he saw a familiar figure in the place known as the origin. "Captain Steve," the little spider said in horror. He saw Captain America's body, the superhuman Steve Rogers. Half of his body went before the origin into the realm where Messiah was, and the other half. His eyes were bright, firm, and mournful. He stared ahead at the person who killed him. Because time had stopped at this moment, Steve was forever stuck at the moment before his death. It was not the fatal wound on his chest that killed him. The superhuman body was easily immune to such a small injury. The person who killed him also knew that this injury was insignificant to Steve, so he lured Steve here and pushed him in Messiah's arms. This was Steve's fatal wound. The little spider knew very well how powerful Steve's superhuman body was. However, such a powerful superhuman body had many deep wounds on his body, and the wounds were showing the phenomenon of the Day of Destruction that the little spider was very familiar with. Some of his flesh had obviously mutated, which meant that his enemy had given him a fatal threat, which activated the Day of Destruction virus in Steve's body. The little spider could not imagine who had given the captain a fatal blow. Let him die at the origin of time. In this strange universe, he saw familiar comrades for the first time, but they were already cold corpses. Chapter 1191. He's very strong, Batman said solemnly as he looked at Captain America's body. He's the greatest warrior in our world, Little Spider said in a sorrowful tone. He's not only strong, but also strong in his character. Before the glory of his personality, we all feel inferior. He fought for the weak and for freedom. He was a hero and a warrior. In front of him, I felt how insignificant I was. It looks like he's just stopped in time. Diana observed for a while and said, "It looks like he's just trapped in origin. Maybe we should try to save him." "Diana, we can't do that." Batman stopped her. "He looks like a warrior of justice. You don't have to worry about anything." Diana looked at Steve Rogers' frozen expression at the starting point of time. His face was solemn, and his eyes were firm. This was the expression of a warrior that Diana liked the most. Diana sighed and said, "He looks like Superman." "That's right." Diana rolled her eyes at Batman. "I know why you don't want to save him. Because you killed Superman once. You think he's a god on Earth, a monster that threatens the world." "Diana," Batman had to be straightforward. "He's already dead." Little Spider could confirm this. Although it looked like Captain America had just stopped in time, he knew that nothing could trap Captain. Captain's reserved expression meant that he was prepared to die in that battle. Batman looked at Steve's expression and pondered. How strong was this warrior when he was alive? Little Spider hesitated for a moment and said, "At first, Captain was just an ordinary warrior. But in order to fight against evil, he participated in a scientific research project for the military and became the strongest human warrior on the planet. But at that time, he was only at the limit of human strength. After joining the Holy Shield, Captain was infected with the Doomsday virus in an extremely dangerous battle." "Doomsday virus?" Batman exclaimed. What are the symptoms of being infected with the Doomsday virus? The Doomsday virus is one of the prehistoric powers left behind in our world. It comes from the remnants of the power of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, the night of famine. The pollen virus of the stairway of the sun accidentally mutated after infecting the alien race, the Skrulls. It has unlimited evolution, and when faced with any enemy, it can immediately come up with a targeted plan. Almost nothing can destroy the host of this virus. The bodies of those it infects are extremely strong. Even if they are pushed into the center of the sun, they will not be destroyed. It has the power to destroy the world, unlimited stamina that will never feel tired, and super fast regeneration ability. In battle, it can continuously evolve and restrain the opponent according to the characteristics of the opponent's abilities. It can adapt to all environments and all enemies. After being killed, it will revive and evolve a way to deal with it. It is impossible to kill the son of destruction twice in the same way. It is the limit of carbon-based creatures, representing the infinite power of evolution. After hearing Spidey's description, Batman, Diana, Barry, and the others looked at each other and said, "This is what we know as the Day Destroyer virus." If he's really infected with the Day Destroyer virus, then the person who killed him is no ordinary opponent. I always thought that Doomsday was a biological weapon that Zwoda brought to Earth. As far as I know, it has a very long history on Krypton. It is not impossible for it to be a relic from the previous universe. Steel Bones checked the information of the Righteous Alliance and said, "But this warrior does not have the characteristics of the spores of the Day of Destruction." Captain was later cured. Spidey had to interject. The Holy Shield sought help from the Revolutionary Alliance, which is the Human Innovation Alliance, a super civilization on Earth that is said to have conquered most of the universe. Wow, Earth actually has such a glorious history, Barry said emotionally. In order to save Captain, the leader of the Holy Shield, Chanong, who is also your second prophet, modified him. He made the super soldier serum in Captain's body fuse with the positive characteristics of the Day Destroyer virus and created the Superman serum. The reason why I could complete Bizarro's genes last time was because I had some information about the Superman serum. Superman serum sounds like it has something to do with Superman. Diana was a little puzzled. Whether it was the Day Destroyer virus or Superman, they were both named by the people of Earth. God knows what their original names were, but at this time, a lot of clues related to them appeared. The people of the previous world seemed to have predicted the future and gave them the same names. Batman turned to look at Spidey and said in a low voice, "It seems that only you can give us an answer. I think it's not a coincidence that the Superman serum can complete Superman's genes, right?" Spidey nodded and said, "Yes. I felt that they were very compatible. I didn't pay attention at the time and only came to my senses later. There's something, at least an origin. I think we have discovered the origin of Krypton," Batman said calmly. Spider-Man hesitated for a moment before adding, "And I know that Krypton, when Captain Rogers and Dr. Stark fought, they fought all the way to the past. In order to erase Captain Rogers, Dr. Stark tampered with the past and made Captain Rogers disappear from history. However, the Superman serum allowed Captain Rogers to resist the power of this historical correction. At that time, the origin of Captain Rogers was revised, and I learned about Krypton for the first time. The origin of Captain Rogers was revised to be the son of Krypton born on Krypton. Before the destruction of his home planet, he came to Earth and became Superman. His name became Cockroach Carl Clark, and he also wore the uniform with the S logo." Spidey's expression was conflicted for a while before she chose to say her guess. "Actually, I had my doubts when I came to this world because there are shadows of our world everywhere in your world. It wasn't until I came to the beginning of time that I had some confidence in proving this conjecture. I know about Krypton, Superman, the fate of Krypton, and the Superman of your world. These have all happened in my world. Dr. Stark's body is made of low-dimensional matter, and the power of Captain Rogers' Superman serum is enough to make him surpass the speed of light." Spidey took out the crimson mechanical glove. Several screens were projected on the glove, all of which were data collected from the battle. Spidey explained based on the data. This means that they can all go back to the past, or that their existence has penetrated the past and the future. Let's assume that they came to the origin of time and had a battle. Then, any change in the origin will change history. If Dr. Stark killed Captain Rogers, then the entire universe will change. They must have come here and changed the world. And because I have the time gem, I won't be affected. This world might be like the history that Dr. Stark changed last time, a modified universe, and I come from before it was modified. Our universe was originally one because they went back to the origin and modified the timeline, turning my universe into your universe. This is the truth of everything. It is not that I have transmigrated, but the world has changed. I haven't changed, Spidey said in a daze. I haven't changed. I haven't transmigrated. I just lost a part of history. A part of the memory after that. Something must have happened after that. But Spidey said with a pained expression, I can't remember. Our world has been destroyed. It has become your world. What happened in it? He had always wanted to treat this conjecture as a fantasy, a worry. When he had to face this despairing truth, Spidey broke down. Aunt May, Gwen. Spidey was in despair. He knelt on the ground. When I opened my eyes, I thought I had transmigrated far away from home and family, alone in this strange place. I thought I could find a way to go home, but home is no more. The moment I closed my eyes and opened them again, my world was gone. I can never go back. I thought this was just another mission to save the world. I was prepared to sacrifice myself, but I didn't expect it would make me sacrifice everything. Spidey sobbed. Chapter 1192. Constantine pushed open the door to the Forgotten Bar. The bar was located in a pocket universe. It had a portal to almost any major city in the world. So magicians were happy to come here for a drink when they had nothing to do and exchange information about the magic world. Shadowpack's captain, Master Dark Knight, the leader of dimensional magic, was the boss here. Constantine was, as usual, an unwelcome guest. You still dare to come here. The bartender of the bar, a furry primate who was in fact a highly intelligent guerrilla detective who could speak, was wiping glasses by the bar counter. When he saw Constantine enter, he exclaimed in surprise, Did the Constantine banishing curse behind the door lose its effect? No wonder I stepped on dog poop when I walked in. Constantine did not mind at all. He had an unruly temperament. Give me a bottle of cheap whiskey. Bobo. The orangutan detective's temper was actually quite good. It was known as the Sherlock Holmes of animals. It had a strong sense of justice, and, at the same time, it also had a very high IQ. It could be said that it had all the elements of the DC Universe's great villain. IQ, blackness, and the golden body of immunity, it was an animal. There were many animal protectionists in the Justice League, and they treated animals much better than humans. However, it was precisely because Detective Exian Gorilla was a hero with a sense of justice that he did not get along with Jacon. Jacon only got along with those heroes who had a unique sense of humor and were close to the gray area. They were also commonly known as dark heroes and anti-heroes. Can you afford it? If you can, just hand it to the counter. It's a magic counter. Once you pay, it will automatically fill your glass. The gorilla detective replied. Constantine smiled shamelessly. Can't you buy me a drink? Bobo, you wouldn't come here if you don't have something important. Constantine, the owner of the bar, Master Dark Knight, spoke. If you have something important to do, I can buy you a drink. If not, you'll have to pay. Wait for 2 weeks. I'll have money for you. Constantine continued to smoke his cigarette. I'm here to get some information. You all know that I've spent more time with the guys in the Justice League than most magicians. I've heard some news from Zakong recently. I'm very sure that there's some sort of hidden threat, some sort of undercurrent, surging in the world of magic. Constantine was spouting nonsense again. He was half bluffing and half seriously asking Grandmaster Midnight, Have you sensed the source of magic? Grandmaster Dark Knight came before Constantine and solemnly said, What do you know? Don't try to fool me with some groundless evidence. If you know something, you should honestly tell me. The gorilla detective said, I think being honest has nothing to do with him. Constantine said, "The Justice Alliance has found the origin of lightning speed, and they've also found the origin of the emotional spectrum power used by the Green Lantern Corps. Unexpectedly, there's a vague shadow of a person behind these two origins." "You know who I'm talking about," the guerrilla detective said with dissatisfaction. "Don't try to fool us with this kind of gossip." Master Dark Knight was silent. Grandmaster Dark Knight signaled for the guerrilla master to stop attacking Constantine. He looked at Constantine and said seriously, "You want to ask about the prophet?" Grandmaster Dark Knight did not care about Constantine's answer. He turned around and explained as if he was talking to himself. "You know, our world is made up of a bunch of madmen, and magicians. It's different from the world of the Justice League. Their world has good and bad people, fighting criminals and madmen, and accomplishing the feat of saving the world. It's black and white. Our world, on the other hand, is in the shadows. It's even weirder and more chaotic. This allows us to discover the dark secrets in the shadows before the Justice League. And among these secrets, the most terrifying and the one that defies common sense are the prophets. In the eyes of most magicians, the three prophets are a secret society that appeared after World War II. It's a group of magicians with the highest level of prophecy. That's why they respect the three prophets, but not fear them. But I'm different. Most magicians, elemental guardians, higher dimensional beings, and embodiments of laws are different. We revere them, and even fear them. The three prophets are a group of monsters. Before the Eternal Council was established, the first batch of witchcraft users in this world had yet to be called gods. Even before the birth of heaven and hell, they were already the most feared existences in this world. Magicians who made deals with demons learned from them that they fear the prophets, so they fear them. Magicians who use the power of heaven get the same answer from heaven. And those ancient witchcraft users who are now called gods, Zeus, Odin, and Poseidon, as well as the magicians of the Eternal Council, Nabu, and Shazan, gained the fear of the prophets from magic. Based on my conjecture, let's make a bold hypothesis. There was no magic in this world in the beginning. It was the prophets who created magic. Whether it's from heaven, hell, elves, or witchcraft, they're all seeds of fire sprinkled by the prophets. And the first magician was Prometheus, the stealer of fire. "This doesn't mean anything," Constantine said. "Not all prophets, right?" Master Dark Knight said vaguely. "We don't know who the supreme existence who planned all of this is. We only know the origin of magic. This world was originally chaotic, and it was the prophets who set the rules of chaos. They discovered this world from chaos and fixed order. And before that, in the midst of chaos, everything was possible and would happen. There was magic at all times, turning back time, shaping life, controlling souls, and distorting matter. Everything was possible in chaos, so everything that could be called magic existed. But these magic had no meaning. Chaos without order is chaos. So it could be called the era of chaos magic. Then, the prophets discovered everything in the midst of chaos. They fixed the rules of the chaos, stipulated light and darkness, heaven and earth, the sun, the moon, and the stars. They created order in the midst of chaos, gave everything a name, fixed them, and then operated order. This is the era of creation, a terrible, blasphemous heresy myth. But only magicians know that it's true, at least part of it. Master Dark Knight recited the root of an ancient rune, and a glimmer of light suddenly appeared in his hand. Those who have not experienced that era will not understand. Constantine, when you learn magic, magic was already fixed. So, you just need to recite an incantation, perform some rituals, and magic is born. So, how do these incantations and rituals come about? What kind of power is behind them? I know you have the demonic bloodline of hell, so you think that magic is paid for by other existences. We pay a price to use it. But only those of us who participated in the creation of magic know that magic itself is power. Let me tell you how magicians are created. The prophets create order from chaos, give names to everything, and then their names have power. We call out their names, calling out their power bound by order. Chunong was programming in front of the computer. He was continuing to create this world. He still had to continue developing the patch pack of lightning speed power that he had developed a few years ago. This universe was a virtual universe that he had participated in creating. No matter what kind of world it was, it determined that information could not exist purely without matter. So, the structure of this virtual universe was in the sea of consciousness of all living beings. It was in the material universe, in the nerve cells of every carbon-based living being, in the storage units of silicon-based living beings. Although all living beings in the universe had become an indescribable mixture of flesh and blood with nerve cells, even silicon-based living beings had become a chaotic combination of countless storage units and logic circuits. All the information of this universe is stored in the storage units. It is encrypted by the three prophets and operated by the internal logic given by the three prophets. Just like a whole system, it operates harmoniously. This law of operation was order. Information that can interfere with the operation of the entire system is called an order. An order is composed of an operation code and an address code. An operation code is the serial number of an order, telling the system to execute a preset order. These orders are contained in the instruction set, written in advance by Chunong. The address code is more complicated, mainly including the source operand address, the destination operand address. In general, it is to retrieve the information stored at the bottom. When the operation code and the address code are combined, it is the basic magic language, or it can be called machine language. It is composed of yin and yang trigrams. Of course, it can also be changed to 0 or 1. The basic unit of information in this universe is the byte. A byte is composed of 8 trigrams. The operation code and the address code take up a kilobyte. The basic magic language, or the basic magic spell, is the language that directly communicates with the world. The ancient wizards used this language to create magic, such as the fireball spell, which uses the information data of fire. The wizard needs to issue an order from the instruction set developed by Chunong, which includes the compound instructions of elements, shaping, and motion functions, and then use the address code to retrieve all the information about the fireball. That is to say, you first need to compile a spell for the fireball, which contains all the information about the fireball, and then store it in the world's memory. Finally, you use the basic magic to design a spell and issue an order to the world, using the backdoor left by Chunong to create a fireball. But such magic has its limitations. The basic magic language responds quickly, but carries very little information. It can use magic quickly and accurately, but it is difficult to operate complex magic. If it is just a simple elemental magic, the structure is simple and the information involved is not much, so it is easy to compile a spell. But to achieve complex magic, such as damage return, time reversal, and consciousness distortion, it is too difficult to use the basic magic language to shape the spell. So the wizards created the upper magic language on the basis of the basic magic language. The world of magic began to progress from machine language to C language, and then to more complex programming tools. Later, the information that could only handle a few kilobytes was increased to a terabyte, and all kinds of complex magic began to be created. Later, I tricked the other two prophets and created the world magic gear, Prophet 0. Prophet 0 standardized the rules of all magic, and I wrote all kinds of basic protocols and world network interaction protocols, completely depriving all mages of the authority to communicate with the world. Now they only need to recite the spell, and Prophet 0 will respond. I deprived the mages of the programmers, so they can only be a fool operating a mage in front of a magic computer with a mouse. But I still retained some of the ancient wizards' authority to reward them for their contribution to the establishment of magic. Now they call themselves gods. Some of the magic language written by the mages was integrated into the magic gear by me, so they have a part of the backdoor. This is the legendary ancient wizards. I was the one who turned the wizards from those hackers who explored the world's basic code, created magic rules, and manipulated the world, into program users who only need to recite the spell and wait for the spell to take effect. What a great merit! In the process, some mages sensed my existence through the rules of magic, and sensed that there was a supreme authority behind magic. However, rather than saying that they were afraid of me, they would rather say that they were afraid of the authority of magic. They still can't detect the truth behind it. Chun-Ong leisurely continued to patch the world with the special power, and at the same time wrote in the program's remarks, "When the special power anchoring this world, magic construction completed. Preparing for the 51st test of the next special power, lightning speed. The power that mages have reached the origin, and I am the origin. Chief designer of the magic gear, world mysterious architect Chun-Ong." Chapter 1193. I'm just here to ask for a little help. Constantine was chased out of the Forgotten Bar. Bobo the guerrilla detective used all his self-control not to kick the bastard's ass. I only asked him to help us investigate the second prophet's creation of magic, and that hairy primate chased us out. Constantine muttered to himself. However, an echo came from the side that seemed to be empty. Maybe it's because you're notorious for scamming your friends. Are we friends now? Constantine flicked the dust off his yellow trench coat, picked up the cigarette, but that had fallen when he was chased out, and put it back in his mouth. Ugh. The invisible voice made a sound of nausea. Of course not. Can't you just light another one? Also, I've already seen you smoke 3 packs of cigarettes today. As a sorcerer, you should know to stay away from bad habits and things that affect your thinking. I smoke, drink, and have promiscuous relationships. But I'm a good sorcerer. Constantine pouted. And which plane of sorcerers are you talking about? The sorcerers here are all like that. Dark, gray, chaotic, and live one day at a time. Trust me, I'm not the only one with these habits. Sorcerers should be wise. The voice said, "You're the shame of all sorcerers. You're not much better than us. Smart and wise, calm and indifferent. Sorcerers are essentially cheaters, thieves, and bandits. We're the ones who bend the rules and abuse our power, discovering and exploiting loopholes in the rules. No matter how self-disciplined and wise you appear on the surface, we're all chaotic in nature." Constantine said, "If it wasn't for the abuse of the power of magic, would you have been chased out of time and could only communicate with me through this thing?" Constantine picked up the chain that was tied to the eye of Agamotto and mocked Strange, who was communicating with him through the artifact. Strange did not refute, because he knew that although Constantine was full of nonsense, he had hit the nail on the head of magic that Strange had never thought of. The Ancient One had told him that sorcerers were people who found energy from other dimensions and cast it into weapons. But Constantine had gone deeper. Sorcerers were people who twisted and used the rules to cheat, even if this cheating system was designed by the Creator himself. However, the Creator was not a kind-hearted person, nor was he a philanthropist. The magic that the Creator left behind was not an act of kindness to the mages. The Creator had his own agenda, and that agenda was not something that mages could simply ignore. It was a natural phenomenon that they did not need to think about, and it could cause the mages to lose themselves in it. Where's the next target? Strange figure flashed past Constantine, and the distance between us is getting shorter. This isn't a good thing for you. The me outside of time is connected to you. You can temporarily pull me into this world, but the force between us is mutual. I'm also pulling you out of time. Moreover, in this tug of war, you won't lose outside of time. I know. Constantine exhaled a puff of smoke, allowing Strange to appear in the void. This supreme sorcerer was doing well outside of time. He was still wearing a magic cloak, but his eyes emitted a foot-long white light, making him look more like a sorcerer. He was still wearing the Kamartaj sorcerer's robe, but after becoming a Dimension Lord, there would be some anomalies around him when he appeared in time, representing the attributes of his territory. The dimensional plane occupied by Strange clearly wasn't a positive force. Blood and shadows gushed out from his body, and an indescribable darkness enveloped him. He looked like another demon king trying to trade his filthy soul with Constantine. "I'm used to it," Constantine said faintly. "I can see that." Strange recalled the first time Constantine saw him through the eye of Agamotto. Supreme Sorcerer from another world, I'm here to negotiate with you. But let me make it clear, I don't want to pay anything. This world needs your power, and if it goes well, we can even bring you back." This word made Strange very uncomfortable. From the looks of it, he was much more experienced than he was. When Strange went to negotiate with Dom, he didn't have the scoundrel temperament of Constantine, who would sell anything and renege on his debt. In any case, in order to save the world, not only would Strange not get anything from Constantine, but he would also have to bear the burden and lend his own magical powers to Constantine. It was as if he had sold himself and the plane behind him to Constantine. In a contest of who was the most irresponsible and thick-skinned, Strange was utterly defeated. Of course, Constantine didn't obtain all this without a price. Every bit of power he used would pull him closer to Strange. The power that came from outside of time would push him out. If Constantine couldn't rescue Strange within this period of time, or find a way to sever his connection to outside of time, Jacques would fall into Strange's hands after he was expelled from time. At that time, Strange would show him the consequences of owing a sorcerer a debt. Of course, Jacques knew what he was doing. When that time comes, I'll sell my soul to Satan or Lucifer or any demon lord or whatever. You guys can have a tug of war. Whoever wins will get my soul. Of course, I'll use myself as a bargaining chip to negotiate with you. In the end, I'll have to rely on my silver tongue, swindle, and kidnap. Just as Constantine said, I'm used to it. For the sake of this world, we can't bear the burden alone. So if there's any trouble, go to the Justice Alliance. Usually, the magic world should deal with its own matters, but I don't think they want to get involved in this trouble. Magic can still be used. So what does it matter to them if the creator of magic has any schemes? They might not be able to live until then. It's been like this for thousands of years anyway. Since magic didn't exist from the beginning, there's no need for it to exist until the end of time. That's what they think. On the other hand, the Justice Alliance has Batman, a persecutory, delusional person. Even God's creation of humans is dangerous to him. Who knows? Maybe God is plotting against humans. He must have a plan to deal with God. It's not a bad idea to go to him. Strange looked on coldly. I think it has something to do with your popularity. What's wrong with my popularity? Constantine was surprised. Even if I'm down and out, the number of people willing to help me can still line up from the Tower of London to London Bridge. Corpses? Strange asked. And I remember when you summoned me. You were being chased by many powerful mages and collapsed on the ground like a dead dog. Just when the mage was about to take your filthy life, you used astral projection to borrow my power. You even pretended to be the worried hero of this world and cheated a lot of conditions that were beneficial to you. That's not an unfair contract. It's an equivalent exchange. You should know that other than me, you won't be able to find a second person to deal with the second profit for you. Constantine said confidently. You probably don't know his reputation in the magic world. In fact, Chenong didn't have much of a reputation in the magic world. As Master Midnight said, most mages only respected the prophet. Only when they reached the top would they understand reverence. There must be something wrong with Chenong. Strange said, I've already found some clues in our universe, but his evil is too deep. Too deep to see the bottom. He must have played a part in my banishment from time to time. I suspect that my return here is also part of his plan. I know he's done a lot of bad things. I just can't guess what his motive is. Maybe it's because it's interesting? Constantine knew a little about this because there was a clown in the universe whose goal was to cause trouble. Many madmen don't need a reason to destroy the world. Constantine tidied his trench coat and prepared to return to the spirit-thin prison to see if he could find someone to bring him back to the Justice Alliance headquarters. Strange shook his head. There are many people like that, but Chenong isn't one of them. He must have some plan. Chapter 1194. Washington, D.C., Hall of Justice. This wasn't just the base of the Justice and Order Alliance. It was also a museum open to the public. It had a public area for citizens and tourists to visit to commemorate the culture and history of the masked heroes. The Hall of Justice was a domed building. The white marble body was decorated with blue patterns that symbolized the heroes saving the world. Although the Hall of Justice was the main base of the Justice and Order Alliance on the surface, there weren't many secret buildings in the Hall of Justice. There were only a few meeting rooms, surveillance rooms, and other rooms that weren't open to the public. Most of the Justice and Order Alliance's functional buildings were set up in the Watchtower, where all the advanced technology of the Justice and Order Alliance was concentrated. The Hall of Justice prepared special equipment for its members, sending them to the chute teleportation system in the Watchtower. It was more like a teleportation station to the Justice and Order Alliance's Watchtower base than the brain of the Justice and Order Alliance on Earth. Large amounts of materials passed through here every day, sent to the satellite space station of the Watchtower and supplied by the government. Constantine blended in with the tourists, ignoring their dissatisfaction with his unkempt appearance and greasy yellow cloak. He pushed open the wide glass door and stepped into the bustling museum-style building. On his left and right were white dummies in heroic uniforms. They were all fresh, original uniforms taken from the Justice and Order Alliance's heroes. The dummies in uniforms were placed randomly on the ladder-shaped platforms on both sides of the building, and one would think that there were no defensive facilities here. In fact, in order to prevent fanatical fans from robbing or stealing a set of uniforms with a hero on it, the largest insurance company in the United States provided security services. It wasn't a groundless worry. Not long ago, many perverts had tried to steal the original uniforms. Constantine walked past the uniform dummies and thought with a hint of jealousy, this world has changed a lot. Now, you can throw a rock and hit a transvestite who picked up a goddamn alien ring or wore red underwear on the outside. Don't they feel ashamed wearing this? What's worse is that they even put it on display for the public to see. This is poisoning the aesthetics of young people. Xiao Zhao once wanted me to buy her a new Prada uniform. It was a series inspired by transvestite uniforms. Luckily, I convinced her not to buy the Wonder Woman uniform. Constantine swore to the devil that it wasn't the reason he was poor. All right, looking at the large and small glass cabinets behind the uniform, they contained the spoils of war that the Alliance of Justice and Order had obtained over the years. Mr. Freeze's freeze ray gun, a certain demon's weapon. Constantine had to admit they have their uses. But there's only one person who understands the truth behind everything and maintains the balance. That person is me. Constantine lowered his head and lit a cigarette, attracting the attention of the guards. A man in a blue security uniform came up and said, "Sir, this is a public place. Smoking is prohibited." Constantine said calmly, "You can set up an exhibition hall here to display the Sherlock of Hell and his cigarettes." The guard pressed down on the electric baton with one hand and looked at some perverted fan. He had seen too many people who tried to lick Batman's suit, people who wanted to measure the size of the honeyed bulge in Superman's underwear, people who dressed up as clowns and wanted to burn this place down, and people who said to the Flash that they wanted to compete with him in speed. The number of perverts the Hall of Justice had dealt with was not one less. The guard gave a final warning. "Sir, please extinguish your cigarette." Constantine felt a little sad. He was wearing his classic yellow trench coat. Was there no one here who knew the Sherlock of Hell? After all, he had appeared when the Alliance of Justice and Order was dealing with the crisis on Earth. Just as the atmosphere turned awkward, someone walked over and said a few words to the guard. The guard stared at Constantine warily and took a few steps back, giving him space to talk. However, he still stared at Constantine. The man turned around and faced Constantine. "John, I saw you from the surveillance cameras, so I came to take a look. You don't look like someone who came back to visit. You recognized me from the crowd?" Constantine was surprised. "I remember that we've only met twice, and at Diana." The man opposite Constantine was Steve Trevor, the man who had almost killed Wonder Woman. He was the one who had crashed on the Amazon island in a plane. He was now the director of the Heavenly Eye Society and the middleman between the U.S. government and the Alliance of Justice and Order. Steve said honestly, "I didn't recognize you." "I'm sorry, John. It was the alarm system set up by Batman that recognized you." Welcome speech? The superhero has been locked on. Constantine from Earth, you have the great will to carry out justice. Welcome to the Alliance of Justice and Order. Constantine joked. "I'm also a member of the Dark Justice League." Steve was obviously a person who could not understand Constantine's humor. He said dryly, "It's a warning and precaution. It's a warning against some super criminals hijacking this place or sabotaging it. That's why they'll be recognized by the surveillance cameras the moment they come out. For example, the clown, Luther, Panther. Constantine was silent. He took a deep breath and said, "What color am I?" "Orange." Steve also felt that this topic was a little embarrassing for Constantine, so he avoided the topic. "John, what do you want to do here?" Constantine said in a low voice, "Send me to the watchtower. I have something to discuss with Batman." Constantine did not want to come here if he had a choice. However, the members of the Alliance of Justice and Order on Earth seemed to have disappeared without a trace. Even Superman was nowhere to be seen. Theoretically, to find Superman, one only needed to shout. It could be said that there were 24-hour surveillance cameras. It was said that there were citizens protesting that Superman's hearing violated the citizens' privacy. But this time, Superman did not respond. Constantine usually contacted the Alliance of Justice and Order through Zatanna. She had a better relationship with them, but ever since Constantine forced her away to prevent the Church of Cold Flames from hurting Zatanna, he could not contact her anymore. Fortunately, the eye of Agamotto showed that she was still safe. Steve glanced at Constantine and said in a low voice, "Follow me." Constantine followed him into the Hall of Justice. It was an area that was not open to the public, but Steve threw him into a room without surveillance and left. Constantine had no choice but to look around the room in boredom. The room was filled with some of the files of the Alliance of Justice and Order that had nothing to do with them. When Constantine walked to a long tapestry of the 7 heads of the Alliance of Justice and Order, a hoarse voice came from behind him. "You never wanted to come into contact with us, John." Chapter 1195. "You usually don't come here." Batman stood behind Constantine and said, "You're the kind of person who wants to solve everything by yourself. That's the damn pride of you mages. If you're here, it means that you have a plan and want to use us. Tell me, what do you want?" Constantine raised his hand and said, "Don't say that. We act on our own because we think we can solve the problem. When we're powerless, mages know how to unite their friends." Constantine said as he lit a cigarette. But what he was actually thinking was, you guessed right. Constantine knew that no matter what he wanted to do, he wouldn't be able to gain the trust of this transvestite in front of him. Fortunately, he didn't need to gain Batman's trust. In fact, it was more advantageous for Batman to suspect him. "What happened?" Batman asked. Constantine exhaled a smoke ring and sighed. "I discovered the origin of magic." Constantine believed that the news of discovering the origin of magic would make Batman nervous for a while. It was a secret that everyone knew. Batman didn't trust anyone, much less those mysterious mages. Constantine knew that Batman had wanted to control the world of magic for a long time. To that end, he even agreed to establish the Justice League of Darkness as a fulcrum for the Justice League to expand its influence in the world of magic. Unfortunately, the Justice League of Darkness itself wasn't reliable. Who were its members? Dead people, worshippers of a certain Indian god. A villain who created a strange serum for himself and wanted to become Batman, only to be controlled by the serum. Zatanna, she was the only reliable one, and the hand that the Justice League of Darkness extended into the world of magic. The swamp monster, the agent of the green of all things, the protector of the environment. There was also the Madam of Xanadu, the mysterious witch. The common characteristic of these people was that they were rarely seen together, let alone united. Of course, there was Constantine himself. Batman looked at Constantine's handsome face that looked serious but was actually frivolous. This was one of the few people he couldn't see through, and he was someone who gave him a headache. If Constantine hadn't always acted like a hero, Batman would have kicked him out. The origin of magic. This topic indeed piqued Batman's interest. After the origin of lightning speed and the origin of the emotional spectrum, was the origin of magic finally beginning to unveil? Batman thought to himself, I hope it's not what I think it is. Magic was created by man. The one who created it is related to the prophet. Constantine observed Batman's expression, but Batman wouldn't reveal any flaws so easily. He didn't show it on the surface, but he sighed inwardly. As expected, seraphic speed, emotional spectrum, and then magic. What was the prophet trying to do by creating these special powers? If the bloodline of the powerful warrior in the origins was really related to Krypton, then even Superman's power was created by the prophet. What were they trying to do? Could it be related to the world that was destroyed the last time? Batman has learned something about the Marvel world from Little Spider. He had a guess. In the final battle, Professor Stark and Superman Rogers had displayed powers similar to some people in this universe. Logically speaking, Superman was not Steve Rogers, and Dr. Manhattan should not be related to Dr. Stark. However, when Batman thought of the Big X that destroyed the Seven Lanterns, he instinctively felt it. That might be the Tony Stark of the previous world. The clues of the previous world were left in this world. What was the prophet trying to do? Batman felt more and more that the waters of the three-prophet system were really deep. At this moment, Constantine suddenly asked, "Is Zack with you?" He raised his head and looked at the watchtower above his head. His eyebrows were slightly furrowed, and his eyes looked worried, but no one knew if it was his acting. In any case, Batman felt that Constantine wasn't simply worried about Zatanna. She wanted to help Diana. Batman replied, "Are you coming to the watchtower to wait for her?" "Okay." Constantine didn't refuse at all. He put out the cigarette in his hand and said, "I've been worried about her ever since the Church of Cold Flames chased us and was forced to separate from her." "That thing is with you?" Batman looked at him with an extremely oppressive gaze. But this was useless against Jia Kong. Jia Kong smiled cheekily and said, "It's better for me to hold such a dangerous magic tool. Bat, you know that my hands are magical." It was rare for Batman to not insist on his own opinion and let Jia Kong continue holding the eye of Agamotto. He knew that Jia Kong was right. The Justice Alliance was powerful, and the heroes were united. Everything was good except that they were a little insensitive to magic. If anything happened to the magic tool, they really couldn't do anything about it. Even if Zatanna held it, it wasn't safe. Who knew how many people in the magic world coveted this thing? The last time Constantine and Zatanna held this thing together, they were almost chased into a dead end. If not for that, he wouldn't have forced Zatanna to leave. Even so, he still caused the death of a friend. He had no choice but to project his soul, astral body, over and contact Strange before he figured out who this thing was connected to. He borrowed the power of a dimensional lord to counterattack. Batman left the room with Constantine. They needed to leave the public area through a secret door and arrive at the part of the Hall of Justice hidden under the surface of the water. The part where the Justice Alliance's command hall and activity area was located. The secret door was hidden under a fountain with strange sculptures. The strangest thing was, how did the heroes bypass the tourists and enter the secret door? They just had to open the fountain. Under the cover of the fountain, Batman opened the secret door. The secret door was a high-tech door supported by steel bones and a magic door that Diana asked her brother, Vulcan, to create. Constantine studied the magic door excitedly, but in the end, he had to admit that he couldn't enter the door without the password. But this didn't mean that he couldn't sneak into the Hall of Justice. After all, a real mage could always find loopholes, and mages would never crack a door honestly. They could go anywhere and bypass the defense. In conclusion, this door could stop a gentleman, but not Constantine. After entering the Watchtower base, there weren't many heroes still in the hall. Barry greeted Constantine. "It's rare to see you here. John, are you looking for Xiao Jia? She's furious with you. The last time you chased her back, she scolded Diana for the whole night. Her eyes were still red the next day." Constantine said, "Find me a room. Is there a guest room here? Or let me stay in Xiao Jia's room." Barry shook his head. "No, she'll come back and give you a curse, and then give me another one. She's really furious. Think of a way to explain it." Constantine could only stay in the house that Luthor used to live in. Frankly speaking, it was a nice house. Luthor had spent a lot of money to renovate it. He strolled to the dining hall of the Watchtower. When it was time to eat, there were many people in the dining hall. Due to the recent tense situation, many heroes had returned to the Watchtower base, including Hawkman, Hawkgirl, Neptune, Batman, Firestorm, Atom, and so on. Only Diana had taken Zatanna to investigate something, and Superman had gone to deal with some matters. The others were basically there. Eagle Man warned Constantine. Smoking is prohibited here. Is that so? Jacques had to put down the sicca in his hand and lowered his eyebrows. I really don't fit in here. There's no one to talk to. Let me think. I seem to be more familiar with Shazam. Where's Shazam? He's in his room. Condor said he likes to eat some sweet things, donuts, candy, and so on, but Diana and Batman sometimes say that he's like that, so he brought them to his room to eat secretly. This is actually not a good thing for him. I can understand Diana and Batman's thoughts. Shazam, he's not very mature. Although Captain Shazam looked tall and steady, everyone in the Justice Alliance knew that he was actually still a child. So, they would sometimes take care of him. Children always have a rebellious phase, and Shazam could not completely treat him as a child. That would damage his authority. Shazam did not want to be the little brother of the Justice Alliance. He did not want to be like Little Spider. So, he would return his room to do things that would damage his image secretly. Constantine smiled and ordered a glass of whiskey, then another, until the chef warned him that he was already a little drunk. Constantine could only stagger back to his room. The next day, he was woken up by the alarm. Constantine rubbed his eyes and walked out of his room. He saw that all the heroes had come out and the atmosphere was not right. Batman's face was so dark that it could drip water. Eagle Woman turned her head and leaned on Hawkman's shoulder, whimpering softly. As for Hawkman, he clenched his fists and his eyes were burning. Barry gripped his hands tightly and his eyes turned red. Wonder Woman hurried over with Zatanna. They had just returned when they saw a group of people surrounding the door of Shazam's room. Diana pushed them away and walked forward. In the room filled with childlike charm, Captain Shazam was lying on the floor. A wound had entered his back, and he was no longer breathing. Diana was extremely furious. She restrained herself with 120% of her self-control and did not roar out. Constantine also walked forward. When he saw Shazam's corpse, his face instantly turned pale. Anyone could see that Shazam was killed without any preparation. Shazam's room was like a child's style, so he usually did not invite anyone in. Only those whom he trusted very much could enter his room. In the Justice Alliance's base, who could kill him without alerting anyone? Not everyone was Batman, but anyone could easily guess that the person who killed Shazam must be someone he trusted very much. Moreover, the murderer was in a watchtower base. Constantine knew that he was in big trouble. Chapter 1196. Diana walked forward and flipped over Shazam's body. She gently closed his eyes, which were filled with confusion. Shazam's original body was actually a 16-year-old boy. He was even a little thin and weak. Under normal circumstances, he would not maintain his Shazam form when he was about to sleep. After all, maintaining his transformation required a lot of energy. However, Shazam's body was his appearance after transformation, a tall and muscular adult. He was still wearing the red uniform with the yellow lightning bolt pattern on the chest and a magic hood. However, the white lightning surrounding him had been extinguished forever. Even the pair of eyes that could burst out lightning were only left with the gray color of death. Shazam must have been killed when he was meeting someone, Diana said angrily. When he hides in his room alone, he will change back to his original appearance. Diana. Batman stopped Diana from continuing. If she continued to speculate, she would come to an awkward conclusion. The murderer was among them, and this was what the murderer wanted to achieve. Batman said in a low voice, "No matter how angry we are now, we cannot fall into the trap that the murderer has set for us. Why did he choose to commit the murder at the base of the Justice and Order Alliance? It's to destroy the trust between us." See, King Arthur said. However, when he raised his head, he saw many people looking at him in surprise. Arthur frowned and said, "What? Can I use my brain?" Diana had also calmed down. She said to the Sea King, "I thought you would be the most impulsive and angry one among us. I'm very angry." The Sea King said coldly, "I want to break the bones of the beasts. Shazam's death is unusual." Oh, Batman was really surprised this time. The Sea King had always been the one who did not like to use his brain. Arthur was a reckless man. He could kill people easily, but if he was asked to make a plan, God, how many times had Arthur's plan been ruined by Melah's recklessness? The person who killed him is provoking us. Not only does he want to get rid of us, but he also wants to defeat us, Arthur said calmly. Batman quickly figured it out. The Justice League had faced countless enemies, but under normal circumstances, an enemy hiding in the dark would either kill Batman, Superman, or the Flash first. Especially the Flash. Usually, when a powerful enemy appeared, they would get rid of the Flash first. Because seraphic speed was too overpowered, taking advantage of the opportunity to get rid of the Flash was equivalent to moving the most troublesome general of the Justice League. Similarly, it was the same for Batman and Superman. Killing Batman was equivalent to destroying the brain of the Justice League. Killing Superman was equivalent to destroying the soul and the most powerful combat power of the Justice League. Killing the Flash was equivalent to eradicating the biggest surprise of the Justice League. Some people liked to challenge the brains of the Justice League, while others liked to directly defeat the strongest Superman of the Justice League. They all wanted to prove their intelligence and strength, but they did not like accidents that ruined their plans. Therefore, the Flash was always the first to die. But this time was different. They chose to kill Shazam first, and they did it in the headquarters of the Justice League. Although Shazam was a very active and powerful hero, he did not pose much of a threat to the enemy. This was because he was not mature enough, and it was easy for him to fall into the enemy's trap. It was not difficult for the few leaders of the Justice League to kill Shazam. Therefore, almost no one would choose to get rid of Shazam first. When an enemy hiding in the dark attacked for the first time, they would usually choose the target that posed the greatest threat to them, unless they liked to fight like the Joker liked to play with Batman. He killed Shazam in the Watchtower to destroy the trust between us and cause a crisis of trust in the Justice League. At the same time, he showed his confidence and announced that he would directly defeat the Justice League. At the same time, he wanted to provoke us to the greatest extent because Shazam is the target of our protection. Batman had calmed down, but his tone was still cold. In the eyes of the Justice League's heroes, Shazam was generally regarded as a Boy Scout. He was a little rebellious and childish, but he had the purest heart in the Justice League and was the target of everyone's protection. The enemy's cruel killing of the underage Shazam had angered everyone in the Justice League. Batman took a closer look at the wound that took Shazam's life. It was a ruthless and accurate strike that pierced through Shazam's heart from the back. The wound was caused by a sharp weapon. The weapon was a narrow dagger. The wound was 3 inches long, and it was very close to the body. This meant that Shazam was killed by a sharp dagger from the back. Shazam's body did not return to its original state after his death, Batman said after examining the wound. There might be magic involved. Shazam was killed by a magic dagger? Zatanna frowned. She turned around and asked Constantine, who had been distracted ever since he found Shazam's body, "Do you remember such a magical artifact?" Constantine came back to his senses and said in a panic, "I don't remember it, but we still don't know what magic is attached to the daggers. Let everyone return to their rooms." Batman ordered. "There are too many people here. It won't help the investigation." Diana ordered directly. Everyone return to their rooms. The rest of the investigation will be handled by Batman and me. We also need a magical assistant. Zach, you should come down and help as well. And you, Barry, we might need you. Zatanna was just about to say that Constantine could help, but Zach Kong left first. Before he left, he said to Zatanna, "Don't be silly, Zach. They don't trust me." Constantine reached out to tidy Zatanna's hair. Then, without looking back, he put on his yellow windbreaker and walked back to his room. Zatanna stared at his back. Her woman's intuition told her that the man she loved deeply had something on his mind. After everyone had left, Diana said, "No matter who killed Shazam, Wizard Shazam will definitely know. We just need to ask Wizard Shazam." Wizard Shazam was an ancient wizard. He had participated in the creation of the Eternal Council, a wizard organization whose main purpose was to protect mankind. The Eternal Council was formed by the 7 wizards with the highest level of magic in human history. They had participated in many major events, including the trial of the 3 original sins, Pandora, Judas, and the Interrogator. Wizard Shazan had spent 3,000 years protecting mankind. Later, he grew tired of it and chose a righteous, pure, and kind 15-year-old boy, Billy Batson, as the guardian of mankind. He was given the ability to use the power of the 6 gods just by saying Shazan. Now that Captain Shazan was killed, the others did not see the murderer, but Wizard Shazan, who was one with Captain Shazan, must know something. We can only contact Wizard Shazan if we return to the Rock of Eternity, Batman said. But Captain Shazan is dead. Who can find the Rock of Eternity? The Rock of Eternity is the center of the universe. Batman also had a headache. How could they go to the Rock of Eternity with Shazan dead? Zatanna's eyes lit up when she heard this. Find a place or find a person, it was just to find something. Who could be better than Constantine? He was a man who could go to heaven, enter hell's phantom zone, enter heavenly realm, enter dream realm, go to spirit-thin purgatory, and tread hell. I can get Constantine to go. He should be able to find that place. Zatanna said. No, Batman and Wonder Woman said in unison. They looked at each other and let Batman explain. Batman had no intention of hiding it at all. Constantine is still our suspect. We can't let the suspect look for clues. At this time, Wonder Woman made a discovery. She found a small doll that looked like a Barbie doll on Shazan's bedside. Shazan did not look like the kind of little boy who would play with a Barbie doll. Moreover, the doll's shape was really suspicious. It was a strange little person with a button for eyes sewn with cloth. Wonder Woman raised the doll and said, "Do any of you recognize this thing?" "Let me see." Zatanna took the doll, and a trace of panic flashed across her face. This did not escape Batman's eyes. Zatanna said in a low voice, "This is a magic tool, a voodoo doll. This is a magic tool used to steal things from others. Wizards usually use this thing to steal people's lifespan, love, happiness, honor, and power." Batman interrupted Zatanna and said, "This thing can also steal Shazan's power. Can you tell who gave this to Shazan?" Wonder Woman's expression turned serious. Clearly, they all had their own guesses, but what made Zatanna panic was that their guesses might be true. This was because this voodoo doll was a secret technique of the voodoo sect. There weren't many people who could make it, and Constantine happened to know one who often stole from him. Daddy Midnight. But Daddy Midnight was already dead. In order to protect the Eye of Agamotto, he was surrounded by several great mages of the Church of Cold Flames. He killed Mr. E, but he also died in the hands of others. Zatanna did not even know why Daddy Midnight would give up his life for Constantine. They were not good friends. However, after Daddy Midnight died, if there was any inheritance, it could only fall into Constantine's hands. Zatanna subconsciously hid her own guess, but she still revealed the clues. This kind of magical tool requires a considerable level of magical attainments. Furthermore, only the voodoo sect's mages are skilled in this style of voodoo doll. It must have come from the hands of a very powerful voodoo sect mage. Zatanna suddenly looked flustered. She ran her fingers through her hair to avoid Batman's gaze. She said in a low voice, "I still have to check the magic books. I have to go back." Zatanna found an excuse to leave. Wonder Woman held the doll and said to Batman, "You actually didn't expose her. That's rare, because Constantine shouldn't be the murderer. This is just something to divert our attention. Of course, we can't ignore the investigation of him. I'll keep an eye on him." Batman said. "Zatanna will ask him. It's better than me asking." Chapter 1197. Batman was deep in thought. He was thinking, why Shazan? After knowing why he was confused, Diana said in a low voice, "Didn't Arthur say that the murderer was trying to provoke us? That's why he killed the innocent Shazan first to destroy the trust between us? Arthur is starting to use his brain. That's a good thing. It means that he's starting to take responsibility and become a real king." Batman said, "But he doesn't have that much experience." His brain needs some time to work before it can take on the heavy responsibility of thinking. Diana smiled and hammered his shoulder. Don't let Arthur hear this, or he'll beat you up. Her smile only appeared for a moment before it immediately turned gloomy. I know you're trying to comfort me, but I really don't need it. Anger and sadness are a good thing for me now. It gives me enough motivation to take revenge and fight. Shazam was like a younger brother to me. There are no men in the Amazon Islands. You know that Amazon men have a terrible history for us. It was Superman who showed me the seriousness of men. You showed me the determination of men. Barry taught me that men can be kind, and Billy, he was innocent and not evil at all. You're like family to me. My family was hurt. We need to take revenge for them. But revenge can't make you lose your rationality and thinking, Batman said. Billy's death left you at a loss. Otherwise, you wouldn't have thought of something that even Arthur could think of, and you wouldn't have overlooked something that Arthur didn't think of. Diana said angrily, Great, so that's how you see me. Am I not even as good as Arthur? Tell me, what did I overlook? Timing. Batman said. Why did Shazam die today? Batman said. Is there anything unusual today? Diana thought for a moment and said, Today is the first time Constantine has stepped into the Hall of Justice. When I first saw him, I knew that he came to the Watchtower with an ulterior motive, Batman said. If it weren't for another reason, John would never have stepped into this place. This place is like another world to him, and it will make him very uncomfortable. You think it was John? No. You mean you don't think he did it? Diana calmed down a little. At least she could think normally. Batman continued his analysis. When Constantine came to the Hall of Justice for the first time, he had his own purpose. He had a plan. We found his voodoo doll in Shazam's place. Does this mean that this plan is related to Shazam? He knew that Shazam was the key, and then the enemy found out that he knew that Shazam was the key. So I made the first move and killed him. Diana's gaze turned serious. Constantine knows the murderer's motive, so you let Zatanna test him. You think that the voodoo doll is related to Shazam's death, but it's not the decisive factor. Instead, it's a clue to the motive. If there's anyone who can make Constantine reveal his plans, it's Zatanna. Batman said calmly. John is a determined man. He treats every one of his friends sincerely, but he can watch them die for justice. Whether his friends are willing or not, he feels guilty about it, but he never regrets it. He carries out a kind of dark justice. I wonder if Zatanna is an exception to him. Probably not. Diana joked. I don't know if he will sacrifice Xiao Jia, but I believe that when the time comes, he will sacrifice Xiao Jia's father without hesitation, even if his father is more important than anything else in Xiao Jia's heart. The true father-in-law, Killer Constantine. Zatanna arrived at Constantine's room and pushed the door open without hesitation. Constantine said nervously in the bathroom, Who is it? Damn it, Xiao Jia. It's not convenient now. Zatanna kicked open the toilet door to Constantine's room. Constantine was squatting on the toilet bowl, clutching the toilet paper with a panicked expression. However, Zatanna was unmoved. She calmly touched Constantine's body. Constantine said in horror, Little Zatanna, don't do it here. Zatanna grabbed the eye of a Gamador hanging on Constantine's chest and tore it off. Jacquin was almost suffocated. Zatanna did not shy away from Constantine, who was squatting on the toilet bowl. She whispered, Mana Pro. Traces of magic clearly appeared on the eye of a Gamador. Light blue fluorescence appeared on the bronze, eye-shaped pendant. The traces where the eyeball locked the time gem was the most obvious. The light blue traces of magic slowly faded. This showed that Constantine had been using the eye of a Gamador just now. You're telling me you can't undo the protection curse on this thing? Zatanna said angrily. So you're using it to wipe your ass? All right. Xiao Jia, you found out. Constantine said with a dejected expression. I just found out. This thing can see images of the past. I swear, I didn't expect the room they arranged for me to also be used by the clown girl Haley. I definitely didn't mean to watch her bathe. It was just a coincidence. Oh. Zatanna released her fist that was hammering Zakon's abdomen. She was about to continue interrogating him when Constantine used an extremely vicious and suicidal move. With a puff, he spat out sh*t. Really beat the sh*t out of him. Zatanna had a look of disgust as she hurriedly retreated out of the toilet. She slammed the door and shouted, "Don't think you can fool us like this. I was just hovering at the edge." "Xiaojia, I couldn't hold back your punch." Zatanna's weak voice came from behind the door. Zatanna did not believe him. She knew that Constantine was trying to destroy the evidence. He was indeed doing something shady in the toilet. Zatanna's intrusion had caught him off guard, and he had no choice but to use this method to buy time to destroy the evidence. But even if she knew, Zatanna could not harden her heart to go in and catch him. It was obvious that Constantine also knew. With the sound of flushing water, Constantine, who had cleaned up all traces, walked out of the toilet with a relaxed expression. Zatanna pressed, "What were you doing in there? What could I be doing in the toilet?" Constantine's expression was calm, but Strange had already completely cut off the connection between the two sides. Constantine had to find a way to use powerful magic to reopen the passage. Last time, he had sacrificed Father Midnight and a friend as a sacrifice to the heavens to open the passage. Constantine was very sad. He had wasted a good idea. He had originally planned to use this move to stall for time when Strange collected his soul. This magical artifact can see what happened in the past. Zatanna raised the eye of Agamotto and asked, "Don't even think about it. I just tried it. The power in Shazan's room is a mess. The power of magic distorts the scenes of the past. I can't see anything," Constantine said. Zatanna punched him in the chest again. Zatanna had some psychological trauma and deliberately chose a thicker place. "So you use it to watch Haley bathe?" "I didn't do it on purpose." Constantine had just opened his mouth when he was punched again. "I know you're hiding something from me. You forced me to leave and then open the protection of this thing. You came to the watchtower and claimed to be looking for me, but you left a voodoo doll in Shazan's room," Zatanna said angrily. "The Righteous Alliance has the right to suspect you. Constantine, you should think about how you're going to explain yourself." Jacques calmly said, "I can't explain myself. If they want, they can capture me." "So you won't say anything?" Zatanna questioned. "You won't say anything, even to me. The fewer people who know about this, the less danger there will be, whether it's for those who know about it or for the entire world." Constantine looked at Zatanna and said in a low voice, "Promise me, don't ask about this. This is between me and the Righteous Alliance. Don't get involved." "What if I say, I'm a member of the Righteous Alliance?" Zatanna looked into Jacques' eyes and enunciated each word. "The last person who knew about this was Father Midnight. You know what happened to him." Constantine said, "I don't want you to be like that." "Finally, one of my questions has been answered," Zatanna said calmly. "Why would Father Midnight risk his life to help you?" "Because you're in cahoots. What are you doing? Why did you go find Shazan? Why did you leave a voodoo doll that can steal Shazan's power? Why would Father Midnight deal with the Church of Cold Flames for you? What did you do with the Eye of Agamotto? Also, what was it that you didn't want me to know? The evil god in the bathroom?" Zatanna sneered and asked mockingly. In the end, Zatanna was unable to pry open Constantine's mouth. When Jacques did what he thought was right, he always pressed forward and never regretted it. Even if he hurt himself or hurt others, he never regretted it. Constantine waited for the people from the Righteous Alliance in his room. He thought that someone would barge in at any moment, Superman or Wonder Woman, and lock him up in the Righteous Alliance's secret prison before interrogating him about Shazan. However, he was already prepared. Shazan was dead. Perhaps this was a good thing. However, to his surprise, Diana pushed open the door to his room and looked around. She did not come to find trouble with him in an aggressive manner. Instead, she told him something that he had not expected. "Zatanna is missing." Constantine's efforts finally failed when he heard this. He raised his hand to light a cigarette, but his trembling hand could not find the lighter for a long time. In the interrogation room of the Righteous Alliance, only Wonder Woman and Batman sat opposite Constantine. "Zatanna left the watchtower after talking to you yesterday. We knew that she wanted to find someone to clear your suspicions, so we did not protect her in time. She must have gone to find Dr. Fate. She felt that God Nabu, who was behind Dr. Fate, should be able to take us to the Rock of Eternity and find Wizard Shazan of the Eternal Council to clear your suspicions. But we received news. She disappeared with Dr. Fate. Her security signal has been deactivated since yesterday. We tried everything we could, but we cannot contact her. The Martian hunters could not find her, and neither could Superman. F***CK. Constantine kicked the chair violently and grabbed his hair. F***CKU. F***CK, this damned righteous alliance. F***CK, you tight-fitting bastards. You should have stopped her from continuing to pester us. This is our business. Why did you drag her into it? But you just want to use everything. Use all of my weaknesses. Constantine raised his head angrily and roared, Batman. We all know. Batman looked calmly at the crazy Constantine, but his gaze softened and was no longer filled with suspicion. No one can escape from this vortex. No one. We have no other choice. In this world, there is no Garden of Eden to escape from. Chapter 1198. Look at this world. Our universe is an intricate cage created by three monsters known as the Prophets. They reverse the destruction of the world, creating time, space, and magic. The three Prophets protect this universe. Outside the universe is the darkness that once destroyed the world. It is one of the evilest existences, death. I am a prisoner, trapped in a cage, using the magic created by the Prophets. But now, the conflict between the Prophets seems to have caused a crack in the cage. But this is not the light of hope, because outside the cage is the most terrifying darkness that humans can imagine. The Prophets created the power of God's speed, the spectrum of emotions, magic, and even the power of life. From the Flash, I learned about the origin of God's speed. A prophet created the Godspeed universe. From Batman, I learned about the secret of the spectrum of emotions. The Seven Lanterns died at the hands of Dr. Manhattan. Batman even suspected that Dr. Manhattan was once a prophet, or at least one of the leaders of the council. From the Swamp Monster, I learned that the green of all creation also has an origin. It was created by a mysterious prophet. From Beast, I learned that the red of all creation also has an origin memory. The red of all creation, which represents flesh and blood, and the green of all creation, which represents plants, were both created by the Prophets. Without a doubt, the remaining withering ashes, fission bacteria, metal spirit, which represents non-carbon-based life, and the decaying darkness, which represents death, are also related to them. All life in the universe belongs to the 6 great nations, and they were all born from the Prophets. I was quite popular in Hell, and I found a clue in the Soul-Thin prison. Heaven and Hell were both created by the same prophet. I thought I found the truth, and the truth was that the world is a plaything in the hands of the prophet. But the most mysterious first prophet found me and told me, none of this has anything to do with me. The prophet did not create everything. After I created the universe, I was in a state between existence and non-existence. I was trapped outside the existence of this universe. You think I am the dark hand that controls everything, but in reality, the authority of this world has slipped from my hand since the beginning, and it has left the orbit that I have set for it. The prophet did not create all of this, but the person who created all of this blended into the prophet. When the World Security Council helped me confirm my existence, I broke free from this illusory state and saw this world that I created. I don't know how heaven and hell came to be, because it's not my business. I don't know how your universe's life force was created in the first place. He knows nothing about lightning speed and the emotional spectrum. The first prophet sighed, You think I'm an omnipotent prophet, but in reality, I'm just a prisoner. When I woke up, I should have known everything, because according to the principles of the three-prophet system, I should be omniscient and omnipotent. But when I looked around, there were too many secrets in this universe. Do you know what that means? It means that you didn't create this universe. Constantine's face turned pale with fright. Only now did he realize that this pool of muddy water was bottomless. Even the first prophet couldn't see the bottom. I might just be a lock. The only thing I can do is to open the lock and allow the unspeakable darkness beyond the universe to enter and perish together with the universe. But I can vaguely sense that this is what he wants. The first person to know said, Constantine, his plan is almost complete. It might even be complete. To stop him, we need to be faster. Otherwise, destruction will be our only outcome. Let's do our best while I can still see. The first prophet sighed. I know what the Eye of Agamotto is. A mage lord was trapped outside of time, and he was a fuse. When a second prophet created magic, he laid a trap. The 7 great wizards who first mastered magic in this world were the coordinates that opened the door for that mage lord. They're all trapped on the Rock of Eternity, but there's still one person whose power can seep out. You know who he is? Shazin. Constantine said with a solemn expression. This divine artifact is too dangerous. It should be what the second prophet prepared to destroy the world. You must control it in your hands. The first person to know said, Shazin is a ready-made coordinate. His Shazin's power is a power bestowed by the wizards, and his body is a natural magic carrier. Power from higher dimensions can easily be projected into his body. So, when he comes into contact with the Eye of Agamotto, he can easily become the carrier of that dimensional mage lord's power. Constantine said, then, the guy who was banished outside of time can easily return to this universe. So, don't let him touch the Eye of Agamotto. The first prophet's figure gradually became illusory. Otherwise, something terrible will happen. In the future I saw, it will end everything. But this is only the most recent node. After stopping Shazin, we've bought some time. Time to find out the truth. I don't know when it started, but I started to notice the messy heroes in tight clothes in this world. They wander around, flaunt their power, cause trouble everywhere, and abuse the power they can't control. In less than 10 minutes, I'm disgusted with them and the moral superiority they claim to be. Justice, indifferent and sarcastic. Later, my girlfriend also became one of them. Then, when I realized that these people who stood tall would first face the danger of the sky collapsing, when I had no choice but to stand as tall as them, she disappeared. Maybe the pervert who dressed himself as a bat was right. There is no longer a pure land in this world. When the sky collapses, no one can survive. The interrogation room was silent. Batman silently digested the information he got from Constantine. He picked up the voodoo doll and said, So, this is why you came to the Alliance of Justice and Order. Take away Shazin's power and eliminate him? You plan to use this voodoo doll to take away Shazin's power, then throw it into hell and give it to an interested demon lord in exchange for some conditions. Satan promised me that after I gave him the power of Shazin, he would tell me more about the origin of hell. Constantine said calmly. That day you went to see Shazin. Diana pressed. I told him that I had some clues about his biological parents. His nemesis, Black Adam, might have a plot. He might find his parents and use the power of their bloodline to take away Shazin's power. Then, I told him that I did not have time to talk. I gave him the voodoo doll and told him that I would contact him through it. Moreover, the doll has a substitute ability. Once the curse on his bloodline is triggered, the doll will block it for him. Constantine said straightforwardly. What happened after that? After that, I left. Constantine stared at the empty space 3 feet away from him, as if he was recalling something. After that, I saw his corpse. So, this voodoo doll is actually a black magic tool to take away Shazin's power, Diana said angrily. Do you know that you are only dealing with a child? If he is a child, he should be kept away from the battlefield. Constantine said disdainfully. This is the consequence of letting him play this superhero game. Diana angrily grabbed Jia Kang's collar and lifted him up. She looked him in the eye and said, This is not Billy's superhero game. This is a child's purest wish for the world to become better. This is the justice he carries out. Billy may be young, but he is more reliable than you. Batman stopped Diana. He said in a low voice, I only have one question left. Since you want to stop Shazin from touching the Eye of Agamotto and prevent the second prophet's plan from being completed, what reason did the enemy have to do that? They could have chosen to let you take away Shazan's power. Why did they choose to kill Shazan? There should not be two standpoints. Why? They are more afraid of Shazan touching the eye of Agamotto than you are. Perhaps they are not prepared enough. Constantine thought for a while and said calmly, "You seem to think that the person who killed Shazan is the second prophet?" Batman said, "Isn't that the case?" Constantine laughed. His laughter affected his lung cancer. He coughed violently until he spat out a mouthful of phlegm. Constantine raised his head and said, "The second prophet is the second prophet. The enemy who wants to destroy the alliance of justice and order is the enemy of the alliance of justice and order. The second prophet never cared about these things. He has succeeded. Right now, he is just waiting, watching us struggle, watching us approach the truth, watching us being destroyed. And the ones who are taking action are some other people. They are on the second prophet's side, but they also have their own interests. For the second prophet, it does not matter when the plan is launched. But for these people, the time is not ripe yet. So, they want to kill Shazan and stop the second prophet's plan from being launched. They do not want us to touch the power of Shazan because they want to control the situation completely. We all need time. This is what I just figured out." Constantine said, "Batty, you already know what you want. Tell me, where is Zatanna?" Diana was surprised for a moment. Then, she turned around and looked at Batman. "You know where Zatanna is? You made Zatanna disappear and forced John to tell the truth?" Batman shook his head and said, "I did not make Zatanna disappear. I just used it. Superman has gone to save her." Batman said, "You are very lucky, John. Zatanna has successfully found the Rock of Eternity. Soon, you will be clear to suspicion. You should believe me more." Batman said calmly, "You should believe that I will not give up on any member of the Justice League." Constantine spat on his face. Zakon smiled mockingly and said, "On the contrary, I don't believe you. No one knows how crazy a pervert dressed as a bat is. Batty, you are just another clown. You will do anything to achieve your goal. I firmly believe this." Batman did not continue to explain. He only wiped his face dry and slowly left the interrogation room. What Batman really hid from Constantine was that Superman had been by Zatanna's side from the beginning. Zatanna had indeed disappeared, but she had disappeared with Superman. Batman would not really give up on a teammate. He only took advantage of Constantine's distrust of him. For this, he did not say anything to Wonder Woman. It was Diana who made Constantine believe that Zatanna would be in danger. The person he had really hurt was Diana. Now, Diana was looking at him from behind, her eyes filled with hurt. He had hurt Diana's trust in him. But so what? He was Batman. He did not need to explain to anyone.